Good evening, everybody, and welcome along to what is undoubtedly one of the headline events of our GT3 Season 13 calendar here at SimRacing International. Round 7 takes us to one of the most storied venues in all of motorsports here at Le Mans. 90 minutes of racing ahead tonight around this 13.6 kilometre circuit. We've got the long blast down toward the Mulsanne, we've got the tricky section through the Porsche curves, we've got iconic runs everywhere you look around this place. And so as always, you join myself, Joseph Glass, alongside my commentary partner, Mr. Dara Thacker, in the booth this evening. And Dara, combination of lots of different technical things that the drivers have to deal with tonight, of course. It's not only the mental load of the extended lap, also that extended race format, and it feels like composure probably just as important as pace, especially considering how tight and how we saw how pivotal the points scored last week in the Pro Class were. One mistake here can not only cost you a lot of time and positions, but a lot of championship points as we get towards crunch time in this championship.
Yeah, and I think for a track like Le Mans, you always need that slightly longer race, don't you? Because down the Mulsanne and even up towards Indianapolis, you just lose so much time at full throttle as it ebbs away from you. This isn't, of course, a lapped race. We haven't got a certain amount of laps to complete. We've just got 90 minutes to run through, and when so much of that time is eaten up by putting your foot flat to the floor and not really being able to do much, you kind of need the extra time to make some of these moves work over the course of the race. But another crunch point in the season. It is a classic circuit as well, and I've been looking forward to it. I think the drivers have as well. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a bit of a small, how do I say? Not so many drivers with us tonight. About half a grid, so I think that works in some favour and some not. It'll mean a quieter track, particularly during qualifying. Drivers are 10 minutes through our open 30-minute session tonight. It does mean less opportunities for the tow, which are ever so important around these parts, but I think they'll enjoy a little bit of a quieter track just to make sure that they can get their lap times in then. So before we join our drivers at circuit side, let's run you through our standings, and let's take a quick look first at how the calendar shapes up. We have just a few weeks left to go, which is kind of crazy considering it doesn't feel like it's been that long since we arrived at Watkins Glen all that time ago, back at the start of July. But here we are, round 7, the final 90-minute race of the season, which I'm sure will come as some relief to many of our drivers. But next week we have the first night session of the season. Dry conditions around the Daytona road course, a circuit that we visited plenty of times in the past, but one that these drivers will be looking forward to. A little bit out of season, of course. Daytona comes around at the start of the year. It's usually dark nights and cold outside when we drive at Daytona, but in the UK at the moment it's extremely warm, so let's see if that continues next week, but I'm sure they will be looking forward to that one. Then it's the Red Bull Ring and Suzuka. Notably, myself, you and Dara in this myself and you, Dara, in the commentary box have noted our excitement for Suzuka. We've had a couple of drivers echoing those thoughts as well, so that'll be definitely a good season finale to round out our championship then. So let's take a little look at the standings and see how things are looking then. So no surprise who is at the top of the sheet in the elite class, of course. Anders Myhre, 600 points, nearly a perfect record. It would have been a perfect record if it wasn't for that incident all the way back in Bathurst. That's long in the memory now, though. It's 4 straight victories for the RAA Ferrari driver, looking to make it 5 on the bounce here in a race that, of course, offers 150 points. It's 202 points down to a man who didn't start the season very well, but he's been on fine form ever since. Milton Tomlinson-Dennis on a run of podium finishes at the moment. Let's see if he can keep that one up as he tries to stay in touching distance of Anders Myhre, but it's looking more and more challenging as the weeks go on. Brandon Dyer loses his position in second in the championship, I believe for the first time so far this season. Hasn't been able to get himself on the podium since the 4th round of the championship. However, only 6 points behind the Mustang, so he is well within his rights to take that position back with a good result this week. Niels Weber has slowly moved his way up the order into 4th. Consistent finishes for him pretty much throughout the entire season, outside the top 10 in the opening round, but since then he hasn't. He's been inside the top 10 ever since. Good performances from him. Ieuan Stich making the most of what he's got. 2 races missed, 2 podiums scored, and the other P14 and P4 sees him nicely on 316 points. The DXT Magenta driver, again, all pretty tight there inside the drivers trailing there for a spot in 4th. Kieran Sharp will fancy his chances as well, but he's been looking in his mirrors as he's slowly dropped down the order over the last few weeks. Wasn't helped by that DNF last time out. Joris Peterswiem in the BMW, again pretty consistent, but you just need to get a little bit more out of that BMW, but he'll be confident, being only 19 points away from the top 5, that he can make something happen in the final few rounds of the season. Richard Simnor suffered his second DNF of the season in his Corvette, ahead of his teammate Andy Jones, who hasn't attended a couple of rounds, and he's failed to finish in the others, but when he does, he's a pretty strong competitor. An 8th and 2 4th places for the DCWR Ferrari. Andrew Pike is just shy of him inside the top 10, and behind him is the second of our NJB Performance drivers in the Mustang. That's Daniel Pillman, his teammate Nils Wever up there in 4th, and Lewis Kenyon, after a stellar run around Road Atlanta, Road America? Yes, it was Road America, a fortnight ago. Sadly for Lewis, he couldn't replicate that this time last week. He's coming into this one off the back of another DNF.
Then if we move to the pro standings that have chopped and changed all the way through, but it is Chris Jennings who still leads the way, despite not having a win on the board and only even 2 top 6s in the opening 6 rounds of the championship. It means that we have a highly competitive, highly unpredictable championship order in pro, with so much still up for grabs. Danny Phillips still in P2. He was championship leader but has dropped away in the last couple of weeks, and due to him losing out on points to Chris Jennings, but he's only some 37 points away. Bobby Moss is in 3rd and punctuated by 2 third places in his championship challenge so far, but he's not a long way ahead of Jamie Bardwell, who also has 2 wins along with Danny Phillips at the top of the order. So it's a mixed bag. No one in the top 5, 6, actually, no one in this top 12 have finished in more than one podium position over the course of the season. Either they've doubled up or they've just been on the podium the singular time, which is actually crazy to think about after 6 rounds. But there's so much to look forward to for the likes of Lewis Hammond. Good consistency over the last 4 weeks have dragged him over the 300-point threshold, and see him in P5 for the DW Racing team. Let's see if he can move forward tonight with a little bit more consistency in his back pocket. John Breitenbach's been a little bit up and down, but a P2 is his season's best so far from round number 3. He, of course, go for the Barbecue Bread Racing team. And then we have the Chaps Motorsports guys starting to come to the fore. Sam Hockley, again, consistent in finishing every race so far this season. That's got him to 7th in the championship despite the season's best of 6th. Mav Gardner, he's had 2 second places, but nothing else inside the top 8 sees him in 7th place, only 5 points behind Sam Hockley. Adam Smith, again, only 2 top 10s, and yet finds himself 9th in the championship, just due to the consistency, because once you drop off the end of this top 12, it gets so congested. Hayden Ahmed won last week at the Hockenheimring, and that's shot him up into the top 10 in the championship standings. Let's see if he can build from that tonight. Ross Young, 11th after his win a couple of weeks ago, and Ollie Pimley, after some early promise, hasn't scored in the last 3 weeks. We'll have to see if he can find anything as we get here at Le Mans.
Yeah, if we can get Mr. Hockley and Mr. Hammond up onto the podium, then that will be a podium for each and every one of our drivers inside the top 12, which is an absolute rarity. So that just goes to show the competitive field that we have in the pro class. Let's keep our eyes on those two McLarens, and see if they can do that one tonight then. So the team's championship standings, it's beginning to open up a little bit for the first of our 2 Moonshiner Racing Club teams. Of course, they've led the way for quite a number of weeks now. Ashley Shucksmith, Christopher Petty, James Fraser and Liam Fraser on 1,151 points. A decent margin over that DXT Magenta team of Wenman, Phillips, Stitchbury and Kenyon, but they will know that they've got some high-performing drivers in that team who can definitely score points. It's definitely not over yet in the slightest, of course. Looking over the shoulder, a slightly smaller margin from 1st to 2nd to 2nd to 3rd. It's the second of the Moonshiners Racing Club teams, and they will, of course, be desperate to try and secure that 1-2 finish in the overall teams championship. It's Sheesby, Bardwell, Greg and Plurger who are trying to keep tabs on the results of the Magenta boys ahead of them to see how things fare. They've got 4 rounds to stick with them, try and get ahead going into the final race of the season. Lewis Hammond, albeit he hasn't had a podium this season, he is in 5th, and that's done he and his teammate Michael Rhodes all the world of good. Darkwing Racing there, sitting inside the top 4, just 1 point ahead of the DXT Cyan team of Weir, Howarth, Mackay and Young, and they too just 1 point ahead of TSRC. Pike, Sharp, Twardock and Moss, very competitive indeed as we look really toward the top 3 in the standings. It's the first of our STL teams in 7th, ahead of the Euro Titans of Adam Smith and Jacques Gilles on 634. It's NJP Performance of Pillman, Wever and Baber in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 nicely is the GPX Sim Sports team of Clive Vere, John Ludbrook and Scott Kostrick. Outside the top 10, Axis Simworks take the spot in 11th. The Altitude 3M esports team of Dyer and Price are in 12th. That lovely Chaps Motorsport McLaren setup looking good as well. They're not too far behind. You can see 500 points all within those top teams up to 15th. Second of our DCWR teams in 14th. STR in P15. The second of the Axis Simcoach teams down there, Treen, Furman and Clifton sit in 16th ahead of Quatermass, Barano Esports, LS Racing, and a new team on the block. I don't know what that team is called because they haven't been on the standings, but it's Alan Olsen and Jesus Saavedra getting themselves into the top 20 for the first time this season. Right then, let's have a little look down at trackside and let's see what is happening down there. And Dara, a little bit of a surprise at the front. We have a pro class man currently on provisional pole position ahead of Brandon Dyer, which is why the pro class are ahead of the elite class, of course, and it's by 0.2 of a second, so a huge gap down to Adam Lynch there, nearly 9/10 the difference between Phillips and Lynch. That may change in the final 8.5 minutes of qualifying, but we've long gone the halfway point. So far, pro class are on top.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we saw them get close to pro class at Hockenheim last week. I didn't necessarily think we'd see them go fastest, but Danny Phillips has somehow made it. Fair play to him for getting to the front of the field. He's just got that absolutely huge gap. Another thing to note about this as well is that obviously here in SRI we have 4 classes split over both splits. This is technically the first and the third class. Over in Split B is the second and the fourth, to try and have a little bit of separation between the classes. Am I right in saying that, or have I absolutely...
I don't think that's the case anymore, is it not?
Oh, have they changed it back?
Is it not Premier?
I'm going to double check.
Yeah, because for
Pro... Was Premier above Pro?
I don't think so.
We definitely...
We did that, but I believe we've reverted back. If I'm honest, if I know some of these drivers... the likes of Danny Phillips, the likes of Chris Jennings, I would be surprised if they were in Tier 3. But hey, I may be wrong, but I'm
totally
pretty
right.
sure.
You're totally right.
Yeah.
I've got egg on my face.
That's okay. That's
totally
okay.
Right.
It's been a hot day, Dara, it's to be expected.
It has. Well, I guess. There we go then. I guess it's slightly less impressive than I thought it was, but it's still quite impressive, right? For Danny Phillips to be at the top of the tree. That 9/10 margin, there's going to see a lot of cars between himself and Adam Lynch. I was just about to say, thank you. It just shows that there's only the 2 pro drivers in the top 10 overall, which means that Phillips and Lynch, they've just got a lot of breathing room at the minute, back to the rest. And I think that'll be what they care about a little bit more, rather than necessarily just being first. It's how many cars can you then slot between you and your rivals, and that'll be what's pleasing them the most at the moment, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. As we can see there, 27 drivers have set a lap time, 29 out there on trackside in total, so half a field with us tonight. Jean Breitenbach doing very well indeed at the moment. He is setting an improved lap time. I'm trying to find him. There he is on the timing tower as he exits through the Porsche curves now. He's only got a couple of corners left to go. Does Mr. Breitenbach 7 sectors denoted here on the timing sheet there, so a lot to work with for these drivers, trying to set improvements, of course. Current pole time at the moment is a 3 minute 52.521. Let's see what Jean can do as he maximises the entry going into that final set of corners, and into the final chicane goes that Ferrari then as he heads out across the curbs and down toward the timing line. He cuts the beam and he does set an improved lap time, only good enough for P18 overall, good enough for P7 in the class, and he pulls off to the right hand side of the circuit. That will be his qualifying all said and done, I think.
Yeah, well, they've got a little bit longer, don't they? Because they should be able to start a lap with any time remaining. They should be able to finish it, and obviously it's a 4 minute lap. So realistically, they've got another minute to get to the line. You could almost, or a minute to get to the line if they want to. But if they're on one now, they'll definitely be able to get another one in. So yeah, they've got a fair amount of time before they have to start worrying about the very end of the session. But 5 minutes disappears very quickly here at Le Mans. So Joris Peters Veem has just started another lap time in the elite class. Very nice delivery there on that BMW, of which I think he's one of only three inhabitants of tonight, with Bardwell and Cardozo. So not a popular car tonight. Let's see how it goes.
Adam Smith, personal best in every sector. That's because he hasn't set a lap time yet. Let's see where he can put that Euro Titans Endurance Pink Mustang as he heads again through the final few corners. You can take a lot of both of those curbs on the way through. A little bit less going through here. Get whacked into that sausage curb if you take too much. Oh, and he's blinking there, Adam Smith, as he crosses over the line. Not sure if he's going to... he will set a lap time. I think it's going to be valid for him. Potentially not. Let's see. He has set a lap time, but it was only good enough for P15, so that is bottom of his class, sadly, for him. Anders Myhre is not having the best time of it out there, Dara. He is on another lap. Let's ride on board with the championship leader in the elite class as he heads through the Dunlop curb through into the first set of chicanes. He's going to have to pick his points here on this lap, Dara, because he's, as we rightly said, he's running out of time. He's not, I don't think, going to make it to the line before the clock strikes 0, so this might be his last attempt. It'll be touch and go for him. We'll have to see how that goes as he crosses the line. Sam Hockley has improved up to 3rd position. Brandon Dyer set a purple sector 1, but hasn't improved on his personal best in the next 4. So that's not looking good for him, but he doesn't need too much time. Kieran Sharp, a 10th away from him in the elite class, so we won't mind too much. We'll stick and we'll ride on board, I think, for a little while, see how Anders gets on as he heads down the Mulsanne straight.
Yep, first of 2 chicanes coming up. You want to keep it to the left-hand side to line up the nicest line through here. Keep it as tight as you can. Open up the second part of the chicane and get yourself out smartly. Nicely done there from the championship leader. Kieran Sharp looks like he's not going to improve. Bobby Moss might improve. Keep an eye on those times as Anders keeps on with his foot to the floor towards the second of the chicane, just sticking it down the middle of the road at the minute, not going left or right, just keeping it as central as he possibly can. No improvement for Bobby Moss that time by. He has got one more opportunity to try and improve. Couple of purple sectors for Brandon Dyer, and that lap is good enough to not just send him top or extend his lead at the top of the elite class, but put him top overall ahead of Danny Phillips. So he'll be pleased to have readjusted the timing tower on the left-hand side. He has it by a 10th. Anders Myhre's got a little bit more time to find then if he's going to try and get himself back onto pole, where we've seen him so much this season. Yeah, green sectors galore, it seems, at the moment for a lot of these drivers. Ben Woodgate setting an improved lap time. Did he move up the order there, or did he just improve? I'm not sure if he did. Didn't scream out on me. Daniel Pillman, he will be next across the line, 11th at the moment on the road, 8th in class. Only 3/1000ths of a second there, separating him from Sam Hockley. Not going to improve, but he will be granted one more opportunity as he's crossed the line with a minute and a half to go here. Still going to be very touch and go for Anders if he can improve. Of course, he knows how much time he has to improve by if he wants to keep up that streak of pole positions. It's going to have to be about 7/10 of a second down ahead to Brandon Dyer if he wants to get that. So we'll soon see what the sectors look like when he gets closer toward the end of that lap. Back onto the brakes then, and on the power. Be careful of the barrier on the right hand side. He's heading his way down now. He's going to be heading toward the final few sectors
in just a moment. He's got the Porsche curve coming up from left to right. He's going to put the car on the outside of the track there. He's going to swing it in nicely into the right-hander. Let's see how much tyre is he using there. It's sounds okay. How much is he going to push it toward that exit wall? A little bit of snap there as he headed through, in a second snap. That's not going to be too comfortable for him, but he's held it together as it goes. He's got the hard bit done now. He just has to make sure he gets a good exit here. Oh, and it's another big snap of oversteer. Really fighting that car. We spoke to Anders last week, didn't we, Dara, over the last fortnight. He hasn't been too comfortable with the setups in that Ferrari. It seems as though he's gone loose again, which we saw around Road America, and we thought it was in his favour, but it turned out that he was wrestling the car more than he wanted to. It looks as though he's doing that again. He's only improving there in the first and 6th sector, and I'm not sure if that's a moment of frustration there by the championship leader as he pile drives it into the pit wall.
Well, it must be, surely, because he's not going to be happy with how it's gone. To only be P5 in qualifying, he will have expected a lot more of himself. Behind Stitch Group, behind Sharp, behind Brandon Dyer as well. So he will have a little bit of work to do. Ben Woodgate, purple sector in sector 4. Of course, there's 7 sectors around the lap, so it's not a necessarily significant chunk of the lap, but it means that he is on track to at least improve, especially with those 2 green sectors at the start of the lap. Bobby Moss could be improving as well. He's quite a way down the order, behind the likes of Hammond and Breitenbach. Jean Breitenbach, that is, with Marcel not too far behind either. He comes in towards the Porsche curves, looking to try and find a little bit of time, and it's kind of at this stage of the session where you can just throw absolutely everything at it through here. Yeah,
a little scrape on the wall there as he headed through, but that is more common than you'd think. It's so inviting to tip it into the left, and then, I think he realises that he's not going to improve. One driver that does stand a chance of moving up a little bit higher up the order is Ben Woodgate and his McLaren. He's entering through the Porsche curves now. He's improved in the opening 2 sectors, setting a class best in the elite class in sector 4. What is his final sector going to be? It needs to be green, really, I think, if he's going to make decent headroads at the moment. He's only 2/100ths of a second away from a place overall. He does need a decent chunk of time to get himself anywhere closer to the top 5. If he has a good final sector here, he might put Anders Myhre at risk of being demoted outside of the top 5. Only time will tell as he dips his McLaren into the final sequence of corners. A lovely looking McLaren as well, by the way. That may well be a new livery. I don't think we've seen that one out there on the circuit. Then out of the final corner, one of the final drivers to set a lap. It's not an improvement in the last sector. Is it an improvement overall? It is, but only enough to make him up 1 place into P7.
Even better news, though, for Danny Phillips, that, isn't it? Because it gives him another car between himself and pretty much anyone else in his class. So he'll be delighted to have, what is that, 6 cars? No, just the 5. Just the 5 cars between himself and Adam Lynch, who is in P2 in class. That's Ieuan Stich going wide. That's his session over. Mav Gardner now, the one looking to improve. He's right the way down the order, but he is improving through most of the lap. Okay. He had a few more corners to go, and then he bailed on it. So he won't improve, Ieuan won't improve, and it doesn't appear that Lawrence is going to be improving either. I think that will be the end of the session.
Yeah, very intriguing session to have 2 class pole men sharing the front row of the grid. I don't recall the last time we've seen that. I don't know if I've ever seen that, actually, in ESR or in SRI. So credit where it's due to Danny Phillips, inside a 1/10 of a second to the elite class pole man, and that will mean for the first time this season, he has not a single car in front of him starting a race, which is exactly what you want to see. Chris Jennings only 4th at the moment in class, but it looks like such a mountain to climb given the amount of drivers in between, 10 drivers in fact, in between he and his pro class rival, of course. Danny Phillips coming into this evening 2nd in the championship, 37 points behind Chris Jennings, so it really is a big battle that we've got on our hands tonight. And ahead of this 90-minute session, it's advantage DXT and advantage Danny Phillips.
And he'll be really pleased, I think, to have been able to put himself right where he has, because this is a track where you want to have the kind of advantage early, and especially in a 90-minute race, when you're expecting to have those couple of pit stops, it sets you up quite well.
It does, and it'll be an interesting toll, I think, to see again. We've had a few of these 90-minute rounds, but such a unique track, a big fuel guzzler around here, of course, at full throttle for the majority. I think it's safe to say the majority of this lap. We might therefore see drivers coming in a little bit earlier, although the tow will be powerful as well with a smaller grid. I'm not sure how that will impact things. Obviously, less chance of incident, and maybe we'll see the pack staying slightly closer together as a result of that then. So warm-up is about to begin. Drivers can get themselves out there, get some fuel in the car, and get themselves set for the start of this one. Remember, it will be a drastically shortened formation lap, otherwise we'd be here all night. So the drivers don't have too long to prepare themselves. From memory, Dara, think they line up after Indianapolis, just before the Porsche curves, and make their way through the final couple of corners? So it's not too far. I don't imagine it's back in the Lausanne, so it's not too far for those drivers to go. Probably a shorter formation lap than what we are used to at the moment then. Just waiting for this session to come to an end then. Normally the warm-up would be underway by now, but we're just waiting for the server to do what it likes to do. And in that meantime, Dara, I was having a little look back through the archives ahead of this one, because it is a bit of a special venue, and it's the fifth occasion that SRI has arrived here at Le Mans. There was a race just earlier in the week, of course, the UKSR Season 19 6th round contested here. Also a 90-minute race. The winners on that night, Philip Hammer, Harvey Wheeler and Max Wheeler, doing very... Sorry, no, that's not true, actually. Correct me, I'm thinking back. I don't know if you saw any of that, Dara, but Harvey Wheeler, who is, of course, a familiar name in many of these championships, was leading the race coming through the Porsche curves, made a mistake with Philip Hammer right behind him, and then on the white flag lap, cost himself a race victory. So it was Hammer, his brother Max Wheeler, winning in the interclass, and then Ryan Abbott also the third winner on the night. So a few of these drivers potentially, obviously particularly Max Wheeler, hasn't gone his way this time, considering he won earlier in the week. He starts a little bit further down the order, but familiar, I think, is the word that a lot of these drivers will be considering, particularly those that were competing in UKSR just the other night.
Yep, and it's a track that I think a lot of the drivers will have confidence at, even after a qualifying session that may or may not have gone their way, because it is one that is just so synonymous with this style of racing. It's one, a track that drivers know inside and out. Pretty much every corner's got a name. It's got a real identity to it, and I think that can give a driver a little bit of confidence, because it is such a particular venue that you know how the car's going to feel generally around a lot of it. And you have a lot of thinking time as well, I think, at this circuit that you don't often get elsewhere, mainly because of the Mulsanne Straight down into Indianapolis as well. You get a lot of time to kind of work out what to do. So I think as a driver, you can almost settle yourself a bit more at a track like this, because you just get more time to feel settled, rather than a track, for example, like Brands, where it just keeps coming at you. You don't really get a moment to breathe at any point. So yeah, I think definitely a track where drivers are going to be looking forward and optimistic to make a strategy work for them.
Yeah, I mean, they have to, especially at this point in the season. Not too many points available, of course, well past the halfway point as we enter the 7th round, so they have to make it count. And as we've seen, the Pro Class, so much on offer. So that's it's really thrown up a good start to this one, with Danny Phillips doing himself good justice there and getting himself so high up the grid. A little bit of a run wide there by Joris Petersween as he makes his way out of the kink, out of the third chicane on this lap. The last time as well, Dara, another fun fact for everyone, the last time that we arrived here in GT3 Thursday was all the way back in Season 8. So it's been a long time. For those drivers who only race with us on Thursday nights, it will feel like a hell of a long time. That was May last year, so good 15 months ago since we've arrived here on a Thursday, and that was a wet night around Le Mans, which is even more complex, even more treacherous than what the drivers face this evening. So you could argue, for drivers who just arrive here on a Thursday, it's their first outing around this circuit.
Yeah, it is. It's a long time, isn't it? 13 months. But I almost feel like I remember it quite well.
Yeah.
With the rain falling. So it's been a while, but it doesn't certainly feel like it's been that long. But it's always nice to be back at a track like this, and the championship's changed so much. in the last, even 18 months, even 12 months really. We're on to season 13 now, and it has kind of come thick and fast, a championship every few months, and it's meant that we've had a real evolution of the championship
sim
from
racing.
that point. Of the real evolution of the sim racing. And I mean, the evolution has made us go international, isn't it? Really.
Stratospheric next, man. I'm telling you, intergalactic sim racing will be next. I'm sure Bostock's already drafting up that idea. Yeah, but you make a good point. Again, in this little research I was doing, you kind of forget how many drivers come and go. Of course, we've had a big mix-up of those competing in our championships over the last couple of seasons, but some notable names, some notable victors during those 5 outings here at Le Mans. Sam Derbyshire, Victor Van Zijs, Yannis Aubert, Pedro Luis da Silva, and Mirko Bortolotti, I believe it was. Of course, the FIA Formula 2 Drivers' Champion back in 2011. He's with us. I think he's down as a reserve driver in the Transatlantic Trophy as well, which got underway last night, which was a very sweaty affair. I was in the cockpit, and it was a pretty difficult one out there. But yeah, less about me. Some names there. Again, Vinciszewski's and Humphrey on the podium on that occasion. So lots of names that feel like we were only talking about them a few seasons ago. But yeah, the last time here was back in season 8, which to me feels like a long time ago.
Pedro Luis da Silva's a throwback name in my mind. So good for so long in this championship. It's interesting. We've had so many great drivers in ESR, SRI in this Thursday night championship over the course of the last few years, and it's great that we have these newer faces who don't have the wins, who don't have the experience in this series at this circuit going for the win. As we work out of the warm-up in towards the gridding section. But it is so exciting, I think, for the drivers that are back after having had success here to try and replicate that. But also it's fun for the drivers that are new to try and add their names to that list, knowing, of course, of the kind of pedigree that those drivers have had before them. So, yeah, I think it's nice, really.
Right then, so the warm-up is over, and that leads us nicely on to our formation lap. The safety car and the pace car will bring our drivers through. We've got Danny Phillips here with a new view for our Pro Class Championship Challenger then. So before the race gets underway, let's do a little run through of the starting grid ahead of the 7th round of the championship here tonight. Oh, here we go. Little blip there, but Dara didn't let that one slide.
I didn't notice anything.
Right then, so Brandon Dyer on pole position, potentially the first pole position of the season for the Altitude Freeham Esports driver. A 3-minute 52.422 is the time to beat. Danny Phillips sharing the front row of the grid on pole position as well in the Pro Class, just within a 10th of a second away from the pole time. Cracking effort by the Pro Class driver. Kieran Sharp and Ieuan Stich in the Elite Class will share row 2 ahead of Elite Championship leader Anders Myhre. He hasn't started outside of the front row of the grid, I believe, in qualifying all season long. He has to settle for row 3 alongside the German Nils Weber tonight. Ben Woodgate starts alongside the pro driver Adam Lynch down in P8, so a good gap that Danny Phillips has built himself up during qualifying. Joris Peters-Wiem there in 9th ahead of Sam Hockley in 10th. Daniel Pillman in 11th and Chris Jennings in 12th, championship leader in the Pro Class. Leon Seeley and Max Wheeler finish what is a nice alternating set of rows there between Elite on the left and Pro on the right. Very interesting as we get underway with this race. Patrick Faulkner and Jared Love will start on row 8 ahead of Schubert Cardozo, Lewis Hammond, Sean Breitenbach and Bobby Moss rounding out the top 20. It's James Paisley-Knight ahead of Lewis Kenyon, Marcel Breitenbach, Josh Young, Jan Janchik and Jamie Bardwell in P26. Mav Gardner, Oren Sadapa and Adam Smith round out our 29 car field ahead of this one, Dara, and rarely we can see them all in the same shot at the same time. Nicely as we come toward the pit entry, the pace car will peel in. The order will be led by Brandon Dyer. to get us underway. Once the green flag falls, he has 1 second to drop the hammer, and everyone else will follow in nicely behind him. Let's see how Danny Phillips handles this one at the start. Is he going to try and take the lead of the race, or is he going to just try and get over to the right-hand side, cover off the inside line, going through the Dunlop curve, try and hold what he's got at the start? Over to you, Dara, for the start of this one.
It's the 24-hour layout. There should be 24 laps here at Le Mans as we're just about to get going down in towards turn 1. They're going to go side by side, or either they aren't even going to go side by side into towards turn 1. Dyer already having a lead over Danny Phillips. Kieran Sharp behind Stitchbury looking behind, nearly 3 wide. As Sharp's going to go on the inside into the opening turn on Danny Phillips. They're going to fan out into the first braking zone with Dyer just trying to keep himself safe 2 by 2. All the way through the field as they work their way through this opening chicane of the race. Everyone looks like they're safely through, and indeed they are, with a couple of teammates fighting in the mid-pack there. Dyer, though, clear at the front. He's already built up a gap of nearly 2/3 of a second over Danny Phillips, and already over a second. He's gone down the order. What's happened to Danny Phillips? He's just gone straight off the road. Looks like he's driven off by himself unless there was big contact, but the pole sitter in the pro class is already outside of the top 25.
Yeah, he's last. He's gone all the way back to the bottom of the grid, and Ross Young as well. The sister team of DXT already out of this race then, so it's a disaster start between the DXT pairs. We'll have to see what happened to Danny in just a moment, if it was of his own accord, or maybe he's been shunted off the racetrack by one of these elite drivers then. So that leads us back to normal service resumed. The top 8 in the standings in the elite class. Adam Lynch takes the lead in the pro class, having done virtually nothing at the start of this one. He's down there in 9th, and it's been a good start and a good getaway by Brandon Dyer, who'll be looking in his mirrors thinking, come on, where is everybody? He's already effectively broken the toe, 1.5 seconds away, and he's left the rest of the pack in behind him to do the jostling as we head down toward the third of our chicanes here. Clean start for the most part, apart from those 2 issues with the XT.
Yeah, and they're going to now be all behind Kieran Sharp, as Brandon Dyer wouldn't have dreamed of a second and a half of an advantage down the Mulsanne for the first time, but that's what he's got. And it's Myhre already back up to P3. I think he'll be a little bit happier than that than where he was at the end of qualifying, and with a big gap between Brandon Dyer and Kieran Sharp. I think he's going to be feeling like he could make a move for P2 pretty shortly. Is he going to go for it here? No, bit of a bump draft as we get it down towards Mulsanne corner itself, down to the village of Mulsanne, where we take a hard right and turn up towards Indianapolis and Arnage. But Anders Myhre, is he going to sit here for the time being? Yes, he will. He had the opportunity to go for it, you could tell, because he had the speed, but he decided to back out of it and will slot into line on the opening lap. Yeah,
you can see that Anders has the pace at the moment. Interestingly, if he was battling for first place at the moment, you could understand why he'd be happy to sit where he is, but he has to monitor the pace of Brandon Dyer in the early stages. You can't let him get too far up the road, especially if he has the pace under him at the start of this one. If he can get on the back of Brandon Dyer, then by all means sit there in the tow, save fuel, and don't extend yourself too much, but he can't afford that gap to open up. As things stand, we've passed a few more chicanes and a few more corners. That gap of 1.5 seconds remains as it was, so that McLaren leading the pack, not extending too much out there at the front. Everybody else following through nicely as it stands. Chris Jennings might have just dipped a couple of tyres off into the gravel there, because he has lost a couple of places, I believe. He's down 2 places in class. Danny Phillips has reclaimed a few of those. There's some jostling going on toward the back between the 3 of these drivers. Have they sorted themselves out? Yes, they have. Danny Phillips now up into 13th in class, so points on the board for the championship challenger, but he's got a lot of work to do. He'll be pleased that he has 90 minutes to do it, though.
Yeah, we're still on the opening lap, with only about 86 of them left, such as the length of a tour of this Circuit de la Sarthe in western France. Jared Love towards the back of the order in the elite class, but in the mid-pack overall, looking to try and get through on one of the chaps' cars. I think that very well could be
Sam Hockley.
Sure who that was. So, thank you, Sam. I was looking up and down the list there for who it was, and that makes more sense that it's Sam Hockley. And it means that Jared Love now makes it 11 of the top 12 cars are all the elite class. So good start for them. And as Myers just got through to Peter and Kieran Sharp, who cut the final chicane, I think, and had to never slow down. So Anders has been given the position, I think, a lot easier than he would have expected, and he's not going to complain at all about that.
Yeah, I think they might have changed the strategy that he had in his head at the moment. Now he has to maybe go a little bit aggressive and push on this lap to try and close that gap, which is now extended up to 2 seconds behind to Brandon Dyer. So let's see how that is when they cross the timing line on the next occasion. Will it be 2 seconds? Will the championship leader Myhre have been able to bring that one down over Brandon Dyer? Ieuan Stich has also got himself up and through. It looks like there's been a problem, Dara. Where is he on the timing sheet at the moment? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, Ieuan Stich up into third. Kieran Sharp has some defending to do here, as does Daniel Pillman. He's got the BMW of Joris Peters Ream looking to challenge him going into the second chicane. Takes to the inside line. I think he's going to have this one done. You can't even see him on the left-hand side. Into the braking zone we go. That move nicely done by the BMW. Gets himself past. Now he can look forward and try and stay with this top 5 set of drivers.
Yeah, that'll be the key, and that'll be the aim for him. Even further back, another slowdown for him. It's 2 in the space of half of a lap, and he's put him from 2nd to, well, 7th, 8th now. I mean, he's just falling down the order with that slowdown. Horrific place to have one, isn't it? Down the Mulsanne straight, and it's just it's a horrible place to be stuck. By basically being a sitting duck on the racing line down the Mulsanne, he's got to go to 8th. There's a lot of work to do to recover that, but already he's dropped out of the top 5. Of course, we had Danny Phillips dropping out of the top 25. He's now back up to 23rd and is making moves. He's now ahead of Bobby Moss as well. He's actually on a bit of a charge at the moment. He's passed Bobby Moss and Maeve in trying to throw Marcel Prey back in the back runner.
Yeah, I was going to say not the most ideal way to serve that slowdown. Doing it on the straight, I think he would he have had enough time to get to the next braking zone to make it a little bit more difficult? Of course, the sporting thing is just to dive out the way, of course, but we do see a lot of drivers serving that in the mid-corner because it's much easier to hold people behind, not just come off the foot and let them by. Speaking of being let by, Sam Hockley not making that job too easy for Max Wheeler, who's all over the back of him, as he is to Jared Love. We could be about to see a bit of an interesting scenario unfolding here. That Ferrari has to be careful with the McLaren and the Audi in behind as they all head through that corner. Defensive looks like McLaren for just a brief moment, but realises that Max Wheeler is not in a position to make the pass on that occasion. Stays where he is, of course. This is the battle for P2 in the Pro Class. We'll keep switching between the class order and the overall order. I just felt like since it's only a 30-car field, it's quite easy to keep track of the overall positions, but we do want to see who's in those favourable places in each class. So at the moment, it's Lynch, Hockley and Wheeler. These two particularly doing battle. Sean Breitenbach looking pretty in behind. He's got Lewis Hammond to deal with in his mirrors as well. And Lewis, of course, coming off having scored the best result last week of any driver inside the top 12 in the standings. So he made the biggest net gain over everybody in the Pro Class last week, and he'll be certainly looking to try and replicate something similar. 5th at the moment will do that for him, but there's such a long way to go. Max Wheeler's dropped off the back of the McLaren for the time being. Lewis Hammond and Jean Breitenbach still are the closest battle that we have out there on the road. Let's go back to the front then and see how it looks. It's come down by half a second, should I say. But look at that, fastest lap time set there. Purple lap, 53.9 over a 54.6 by the race leader. So Anders is much quicker at the moment, and I'm sure in a couple of laps he'll be putting on a challenge for the lead.
It does look that way, doesn't it? With the amount of pace that he is putting in at the front. That's kind of exactly what we would have expected as the gaps start to open up in that elite class at the front. Danny Phillips still trying to come back through the field. He went off at this corner on the opening lap, but he's made a move this time by. This time he gets through on James Paisley Knight. Lawrence de Dapper will be his next target as he comes through at Tertre Rouge and on to the Mulsanne. Already back up to 8. It's a really good, I mean, for what, 2.5 laps? Not even 2 laps, just about 2 laps. To be able to make that much progress is really impressive for Danny. And the gaps aren't huge, so I think he's going to be feeling quite positive about how it's going so far. Despite the mistake, he clearly has the most pace of anybody around him.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. He'll have that confidence under him that he pulled it off during qualifying, and he was so far ahead of everybody else in his class that he will probably feel confident over this 90-minute spell that he can reclaim a lot of those points back. And for the while, you can see that battle up ahead, just 3 or 4 cars up the road, is that battle for the second place in the class. And for as long as that continues, those guys will be costing each other quite a bit of time, which will only work in the favour of Phillips. He just has to hope that Adam Lynch has a few errors throughout the race to lose some time. If not, it's going to be pretty difficult to get himself back onto the top spot. But definitely a one to watch regardless of what happened on the opening lap, but particularly after that one with the pace that Danny showed in qualifying. One to watch here tonight to see how far he can rise back up the order before the night is done. Just 10 minutes gone, an hour and 20 left to go here. Max Wheeler still all over the back of Sam Hockley, pulls to the inside. The Audi's going to get himself alongside as they head into the next braking zone. And Hockley thinks, yeah, you go on, mate. I'll just stay in your slipstream for a little while. He's going to get a better exit, I think. No, I think he came off the throttle again there. Maybe didn't want to take that position back too soon. Lewis Hammond has also got himself past Sean Breitenbach just in behind. We can see how close Sean was there just in the background. Chris Jennings has dropped off the back of that pack a little bit as well, so he's got quite a bit of work to do if he wants to stay within touching distance of the top 5.
Yep, that'll be his key. That'll be his aim here. I mean, the early stages here are just kind of about positioning yourself, aren't they? There's opening stick, definitely. Making sure that you don't give too much away to the others around you. I said at the start this could be a 24-lap race, but a slightly slower start and obviously pit stops in the frame. I think it could even be a 23-lap race, depending. I made that calculation based off of a 3-minute 53 lap for the leader, but it's been a little bit slower than that so far, particularly that opening lap, which of course is to be expected. So it means that pit windows are narrow through the race, as it always would be, because if you're at the Red Bull Ring, you'd get through 3 laps in the same amount of time that it would take to do 1 here at Le Mans. So it means that the range in which you can... Oh, someone go wide. Yeah, John Brainback went wide. You can see the puff of smoke. He's gone off the road. He'll have to rejoin the inside of the Porsche Go, which is a horrible place to rejoin, as he dumps gravel everywhere over the circuit. But it does mean that you have to be more careful with the strategy, and if you try and do something different, it's going to have to be more radically different than anyone else.
Sam Hockley looking to put a move on Jared Love. The Ferrari on the inside breaks late, and he runs out of space there as you open up the corner using that pit entry line. That's going to invite Lewis Hammond in with another opportunity. Max Wheeler has got past Jared Love as well, while we watched Mr. Breitenbach heading off into the gravel. So good battle unfolding here between the drivers toward the front. And Max Wheeler, look at that. Is that a slowdown that he has to serve, Dara? Is he going to play strategically into the chicane? It's what we saw earlier on, and those drivers are going to have to really pick the moments here, because you think you're safe to play, you know, to extend that slowdown penalty, but if you don't do it quickly enough, it can really cost you. There he is. He's having to come off. He's going to take the long way around the corner, but he served that very well to only lose 1 place in what would be probably a second or more worth of a slowdown. He's done very well indeed, and he hasn't lost any points, crucially for him. It will upset his run a little bit here down toward the second chicane, but crucially he's managed to keep Sam Hockley and Lewis Hammond in behind for the time being.
Yep, and this is going to be quite close now for Kieran Sharp, right down towards the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. Not going to go for it this time on Joris, and we'll sit behind and wait. Looking to try and line up the exit. You can see that prioritising the second apex, and he has gained off the exit of the corner. Is it enough to give him a go down in towards the second chicane? I'm not too sure. He's lost a couple of tenths through the entry of the corner, but you can see him gaining, like he's attached a tow rope to the car in front. Has he got enough?
Let's see. He's going to pull to the inside. Is the BMW going to defend? I think not, although he's not moving over to the right-hand side, so he's going to make it tough. There it is. Moves over to open up the corner. Slots in front goes the Lamborghini. The Mustang in behind. Daniel Pillman will fancy his chances at a good run out here, of course. You can run extremely wide. The Lamborghini made the most of that on the exit. And they head now down toward the Mulsanne corner. Pretty tricky braking zone. You arrive at a rate of knots there, and you've got to apply the brakes with a little bit of steering lock on. Very easy to lock the rears with a bit of oversteer there. You can send your car into a spin. In they go. Pillman remains where he is. Peter Zweem not able to get any closer to that leading Lamborghini, and I'm very pleased that we've still got plenty of close battles here, of course, aided by the slipstream around the lap. Hopefully that remains throughout the rest of this session, but it's such a long time to go, it's hard to predict. This is an interesting one still going on. Jared Love will feel a little bit out of sorts in between these drivers. Max Wheeler ahead, then it's the elite class driver in P11, Lewis Hammond has got himself past Sam Hockley as well. Last time we saw him, he was 5th, and now he's up to 3rd, which is probably where we've lost Sean Brayton back. He would, of course, been riding up there a little bit, and up the inside goes the McLaren on the elite class driver, and he's not giving this one up. Is Jared Love? He's going to stay on the inside. This might open the door up nicely for Sam Hockley to get a good exit here on the pair of them.
Yeah, and Hockley, of course, who was 2nd not too long ago, has been overtaken by both Wheeler and Hammond. Would like a little bit of retribution. Not going to get it, though, up in towards the Porsche curves. You've got to be careful, though, because you've got Chris Jennings not too far back, and then look who's lurking in the background. It's Danny Phillips, who could be one to chase after these guys shortly. Sam Hockley, sorry, not Sam Hockley, it was Hammond there, nearly going for the move, which would have been a very bold place to go for it. Thankfully, he's backed out of that, because that could have been, well, that could have been quite catastrophic if there was contact made into the entry of Porsche curves.
Could have been. Absolutely then. Look at this. Speaking of pace on entry, that McLaren looked awfully fast coming through that final couple of corners. He's putting pressure on Leon Seeley, of course. This is our race leader. Meanwhile, Anders Myhre sets the fastest lap time once again of the session. He's brought that gap down to below 1 second now to the race leader, Brandon Dyer. So we might see the tow start to take effect on this lap, and we'll see Anders Myhre in that Ferrari encroaching more and more onto the back of the McLaren. So keep your eye on the timing tower for that one. We'll be sure to join those drivers as that begins to heat up a little bit toward the front of the order. But yeah, Adam has to be a little bit cautious here, because he's got Max Wheeler just a couple seconds behind him, who's managed to clear a lot of that traffic so far. So he's flying at the moment is that Audi in amongst the McLarens, as we always refer, and he can't let himself get caught up. Mr. Lynch can't let himself get caught up with drivers in the elite class. If he wants to dispatch this Mustang, ideally he would do that very soon. Look at this, drivers picking up slowdowns all over the place, and Max Wheeler, much like last lap, has picked up another one, and he's going to have to serve this, I think, before we reach the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. He's weaving to try and ditch time. Very what's the word? Unorthodox is the word. Unorthodox way to serve a slowdown. Not sure it's exactly within the rules, but if the driver behind doesn't mind, then nobody else will. And it looks like, no, he hasn't got rid of it yet, Dara, so it might have helped. No, but he's gonna have to slow down, and there you go. And he probably only had a tenth or two left in the bank, because as soon as he exited the corner, it was gone. So he was very close to making that one stick. Sadly for him, though, he's had to let Lewis Hammond by, Sam Hockley and championship leader Chris Jennings in the charge, in the hunt here. This is exactly what Jennings wants. He's found himself right back in the battle here.
Yeah, it's certainly inventive, what he was doing. Oh, Hockley goes a little bit deep into the corner. It's going to give a nice exit to Max Wheeler, but he goes a little bit wide. Careful, don't pick up another slowdown. They're going to be nearly 3 abreast, aren't they, by the time they get into Mulsanne, if they each go for it, because they've each got a pace advantage on the others around them. Chris Jennings just wants to sit back and watch, to be honest. I think this is the best place to be. You don't want to be anywhere nearer than this, going in towards the Mulsanne corner. Inside line for Hockley. Is he going to go for the move on Lewis Hammond? I think he is. In towards the heavy braking zone. It could open the door for Wheeler, and if they all get caught up, it could open the door for Chris Jennings as well. Wide for Lewis Hammond. He's going to be pushed out by Hockley, who gets through, and then Max Wheeler's training through and is going to pick up the slipstream from Hockley, and he should be able to come through as well. So Hammond's been shuffled from 2nd to 4th in just the singular corner, and Chris Jennings might get on the act as well, but it's still not over towards Indianapolis, or, well, maybe it is.
Yeah, the run down towards Arnage, Indianapolis, is a good one. It's a great place to try and make a move tricky through this high-speed right-hander. You can see 3 different lines being taken there, as the Audi on the outside takes a bit of an unorthodox entry into the corner. Probably not where he wanted to end up on the exit. Oh, and Jennings there thought about it, but was stuffed out of that one by the McLaren ahead. So, yeah, Lewis Hammond dropping down a few positions there. Unfortunate for him, but I think Jennings was in the right position there, not stressed out as much as the drivers ahead of them will be. But a great sector for Sam Hockley, who moves up a good couple of places there, and he now leads this pack nicely. And look at this, Dara. Danny Phillips is already on the back of these drivers, so he can see 2nd place just above him as Wheeler and Hockley go side by side, and I think he's just got through there on Sam Hockley. But we've got an incredible battle with some incredibly fast drivers, and many of them in the top 5 in the championship, sharing what is no more than 7 or 8 car lengths here. Only 20 minutes have gone. Something tells me this probably won't last for the entire race. Good to see that Danny Phillips is back in touching distance with his competitors, but so far, extremely good racing, very entertaining here from the drivers in the Pro Class.
Yeah, it's nice to see that we've got that battle raging on with 20 minutes of the clock completed, and as Myhre, of course, now leads the race. Let's have a look at how this has unfolded. It must have been a slowdown penalty towards turn 1.
Indeed. Wow.
Because, I mean, if that's a natural pace advantage, you know, can't help us all through turn 1, and Anders Myhre sweeps through, takes the lead, and is in the position that I think many of us would have expected him to have been right from the start. But after 20 minutes, he's found himself there. Now, can he pull, or can Brandon Dyer sit in that slipstream? Yeah,
that's 2 slowdowns that have gone in the favour of Anders Myhre. I'm sure he was annoyed with his qualifying result. However, I'm sure he would have loved to have had some battles on his hands to try and reclaim his favoured position toward the front of the order. But instead, his competitors have just handed it to him through mistakes of their own. Having said that, he does have some defending to do here, as Brandon Dyer is not giving up on that one so easily. He will have the pace, of course. You'll know that. He qualified on pole position. Nothing to say that Anders is the faster driver out there tonight, albeit leading the race. He's still got a good chance, and perhaps Brandon can take this opportunity to sit in behind that Ferrari, conserve a little bit of fuel, see how long he can push it. Maybe he can stay within touching distance. Lewis Hammond has picked up another slowdown. It's happening all over the place at the moment, and he too now serving it by weaving across. I think Max Wheeler's passed on some bad habits earlier on in the race, and others think, you know what, that's not the worst idea at all. You can keep the throttle pinned, but technically you are shaving off a few tenths from your lap time. So interesting to see how that one is handled. And Danny Phillips, the beneficiary of that one. Chris Jennings will have to stay put. So Danny has got himself past Chris Jennings. Let's go back and see what happened. In fact, it was a battle a little bit earlier on. They've come out of the first sector, and they're side by side as they head down toward the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. Up the inside goes one McLaren on the other. Top 2 in the championship. First enters Phillips into the chicane, followed by Chris Jennings. Great recovery drive at the moment here by Danny Phillips.
I mean, what an opening stint. I mean, he from pole to last, bar Ross Young, back up to P4, and maybe a little bit more to come before he comes into the pit lane for the first time in this round. I mean, this is only lap 6, isn't it? So, yeah, incredible job for him to get to where he is now. He's got a small gap up to Hockley and Wheeler, but I'm not sure that's going to panic him too much. This is Lewis Kenyon, right up behind the axis. Well, you can tell it's the axis.
Oh, yeah.
Oh hello, goodness me. Came out of absolutely nowhere. It's a mix of elites and pros, and there's contact, and there's a bump into the wall, and there's the damage. And is Kenyon going to be able to get that back to the pit lane? No, he's going to tow. That's going to be him out of the session. Car going wide. That's Lewis Hammond, who's now going to meet ball flag after that contact with Lewis Kenyon, and he's going to have to limp to the pit lane because he won't want to tow from here. He'd lose, 5 minutes by the end.
Yeah, very, very tricky situation there for Lewis Kenyon. I think it was Lawrence Tadapper who made contact with him heading into that one. We'll see if we can find that on the timing tower. But yeah, I think it was the punch-up of all the cars there. A meatball for Lewis Hammond as well. Dara, look at this. He was doing so well toward the front of the order, and now he is limping that one home. Can we spot the damage on that machine? Doesn't look too bad from the rear, but you can see the front, and the front right tyre I don't think is even moving. You can see it's incredibly difficult for him to turn that machine, and he's just going to clear the barrier. Going to have to get that one back into the pit lane, losing lots of time. He will have that fast repair, but yeah, you can see that front right tyre, Dara, not even moving an inch.
Yeah, it doesn't look pretty, does it? And Lewis is just going to have to just coax it back to the pit lane. He'll get home in 2 pit stops, so he's just going to end up losing the time that he's lost currently by limping home. But it's gutting, isn't it? Just one small mistake is going to kind of undo his race. That won't be pleasing at all for him. We have a little look at Ieuan Stich right behind Niels Wever and Ben Woodgate. Good little battle for P3. You've got Pillman, Jores, Kieran Sharp in this as well. we had the battle in the pro class for the front few positions, and now it feels like we're going to the elite class for the same kind of battle.
Yeah, Ieuan did just drop 1 or 2 places in the first sector there, which is why we jumped on board with him. He's still putting these guys under pressure. Drivers in behind there, you can see the NJB performance machine of Daniel Pillman having to defend against Joris Petersveem and Kieran Sharp, BMW and the Lamborghini. So yeah, Ieuan did drop back a couple of places. I think he probably had a slow down, maybe, or just made a mistake coming out of the first chicane through the S's. But it's all well that ends well for him. He's still within touching distance of the top 4, so he won't be too disheartened by that. Let's see as we get the run down toward the second Mulsanne chicane. Is anyone going to think about making a move? We've got 2 sets of 3 drivers heading into this one, and they all hold file as they were on the entry. It's the same as how they are on the exit there, approaching the 1 hour point, so we're nearly a third of the way through this one. Still so much action out there on the circuit. Lawrence Adapa is all over the back of Chris Jennings. This is the battle for 5th in the pro class, just a little bit further down the road from the drivers we've just left. And yeah, Sam Hockley still putting pressure on Max Wheeler, all the while Adam Lynch leading the way, 7 seconds clear of his nearest class rival then. So pretty comfortable opening third for the McLaren driver at the front. Not so comfortable for these sets of McLaren drivers as they head in toward the braking zone of the Mulsanne. Up goes Lawrence Adapa through the inside. Jennings has to let that one go. He's dropped down to 6th.
He has, and he's kind of tumbled back a little bit from where he was before. Adapa, though, pleased, I'm sure, to be putting himself back in the top 5. Jennings right behind him, ready to make the move back on him if he's not too careful. For a moment it was going to be settled, but not quite. There we go. This is the back off from Chris. I'm interested. Danny Phillips is right behind Sam Hockley, but not quite forcing the overtake yet in the way that he's been able to do as he's worked his way through the field. And clearly he has the pace because he's... Oh, goodness me. Marcel Prating back in the background there, nearly bidding it. But here is Danny. He's worked his way, as we've said, up to P4 once again. And he's gone for the moves. He's gone for it. Kind of, he's not sat and waited, basically. He's not twiddled his thumbs and given himself extra time. He has gone for it slightly earlier than others have over the course of the race so far. But it seems now that he's happy to settle a little bit, happy to wait a touch behind Sam Hockley. But the second that gap gets a little bit more, and it is now with it over a second up to Max Wheeler, let's see if Danny turns it up a bit and tries to get this move done.
Yeah, I was going to mention a little bit earlier on in relation to championship leader Chris Jennings. He was able to survive that out-of-form result for him last week in P7. He can't really afford too many more of those. Fortunate for him, Danny Phillips finished 8th last week, so the 2 championship leaders, 7th and 8th last time out, are on the Hockenheimring respectively. This time it's going in favour of Danny Phillips, but neither of them in those podium positions, albeit Danny is very close in behind Sam Hockley. But for Chris Jennings, he can't really afford too many more results outside the top 5, particularly with Danny showing the kind of pace that he has done tonight and the kind of race pace that is continuing to show as he gets a better exit over his fellow McLaren. And Sam Hockley was one of those drivers that we mentioned when we were running through the standings, one of the 2 drivers in the pro class inside the top 12 yet to score a podium, currently in that position. But I think with the pace of Danny Phillips, it will be very difficult indeed for the Chaps Motorsport McLaren to hold on to that one. But intriguing here for Hockley, and even more so the positions over the last few weeks of the lead 2 in the standings.
Yep, and it has been a real open bag, hasn't it? As we've seen in that pro class, and I think Danny Phillips would like to give himself a little bit of a march over the rest tonight, but he also isn't against a bit of a bump draft for Sam Hockley down in towards the opening chicane here on the Mulsanne straight. Give him a couple of tenths worth of a boost. And to the entry to the corner, it gained Sam Hockley exactly 1,000th of a second over Max Wheeler. But that gap up to Adam Lynch is the one that I think Danny's going to be slightly more worried about. So we have a quick little look at the battle for P3 in the elite class, when Wilgate holding on for the time being, and it just... Oh, that's wide. That could be a... No, it's not going to be a slowdown.
Oh, it is?
It is a slowdown, indeed.
Don't doubt yourself, Dara.
Yeah, I should have done it myself. I've seen too many races at Le Mans, clearly. But that's going to drop him down behind Niels Wever and Ieuan Stich, and it now gives Niels the chance to see what he can do and try and chase after Brandon Dyer, who has lost touch to Anders Myhre.
Yeah, exactly. That was what was going to happen, I think, inevitably. Once Anders got himself going, the race pace tends to favour him, and when he hasn't performed in qualifying, he still performs during the race, which is, of course, what champions tend to do. Then look at that clock making its way down 5 seconds to the hour. So these drivers well into the race at the moment, but still only a third of our time has passed. It will be pretty difficult for those guys inside the cockpit. Let me tell you, in that 1 hour race in the Transatlantic Trophy last night, the main complication was dealing with the GT3 traffic, of course, in a GT4 car. That would be me, the little slow McLaren that was making his way around the track. And thankfully these guys don't have to deal with that multi-class scenario, but what they do have to deal with is the temperature of their rooms, which has been more common than usual, I think, in this championship. Of course, a summer start to the championship, but I wonder if any of these guys have come up with any unique methods of keeping themselves cool during these sessions, because for a 90-minute race around a circuit like this, you really do need to focus on keeping that temperature down and keeping the heart rate down and focusing on what you need to do. It's so easy in these long straights, of course, to sort of lose that concentration for a moment, and all sorts of mistakes can unfold when you just lose that concentration throughout such the several long runs that we have around Le Mans.
Let's see. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, this circuit does provide a lot generally, doesn't it, in terms of the full breadth of what we see. High speed, medium speed, low speed corners, and then long straights, of course, as well. Kind of has a little bit of everything. Of course, developed over the course of 120 years. In fact, exactly 120 years. I did my A-level French speaking presentation about the history of the French Grand Prix. So I can tell you it started in 1906, Joe.
Really?
I'll probably tell you that in French, but I won't bore you. It is a circuit that has, evolved over the course of time a lot, particularly with this opening part, and of course the addition of the Bugatti circuit that we see in MotoGP a lot yearly. Danny Phillips is the fastest lap of the race in the Pro class so far. Not terribly surprising. He was the comfortable pole sitter in qualifying, but after getting through on Sam Hockley, now can chase after Max Wheeler, now can chase after Adam Lynch. This is a good phase for Danny. As Matt Gardner comes into the pit lane for what surely is the first scheduled stop of the race.
Yeah, well, it's hard to believe that it's scheduled, but we'll soon see if other drivers follow him in. I don't see too much damage on that Ferrari, which suggests that it is scheduled, but it is very early indeed. Then we've got Ieuan Stich hiding in behind that Mustang. Two absolutely massive tanks making their way down to the first chicane, and one so big that it blocks the other as that purple DXT magenta livery just comes out a little bit further back. Now a car length or two away from Niels Wever, but a big and very interesting battle for the final place on the podium, with Anders Myhre and Brandon Dyer so far up the road. 10 seconds it is from first to third, and a further 8 from P2 down to that NJB performance machine at the front of our picture at the moment. But no letting up by that Lamborghini, of course, almost shadowed in behind the second of our NJB Mustangs just at the back of the picture. But this is exactly what we like to see, a third of the way through the race, and we still have a brilliant battle on our hands here in the elite class. And once we get to this point in the race, Dara, it does fill me with a little bit more confidence that we're likely to see this continue, because the drivers have had plenty of time to get everything in the right window and to show their true race pace. And so far, these guys are extremely matched, aren't they?
Yep, they are, which is always good to see. We never like to see, big disparities, do we? It's nice that we have these tight little tussles through the field, and that we have drivers that feel like they've got a good race on their hands. We've, passed that opening half an hour mark into the second third of the race, if you will, and it's going to be not long at all. Only did a couple of laps until we get to the half race distance point. So time again ebbing away quickly from all of our drivers. Kieran Sharp with, I think, a lot of work to do. He will feel like he should be in a much higher position than 7th. It's because little mistakes that have put him here. But he is also the only Lamborghini in the field, so he is the only benchmark. There's no other reference to see how the Lamborghini's doing around this circuit. We just know that he's got some good pace. He's sort of not quite able to show it, bunched up behind this group of cars. Niels Wever has lost about 1.5 seconds to Brown and Dyer since he overtook Woodgate for P3. And I think Ieuan Stich is going to start to think that he wants to have a go.
Yeah, I think so. It's always tricky, though, around a circuit of this nature. Do you want to be that lead car punching the hole in the air for the rest of your competitors to take advantage of? So let's see. For as long as that McLaren in behind Stitchbury, the McLaren of Ben Woodgate, as long as he's not putting him under too much pressure, Ieuan might be quite happy just to sit behind, at least until that pit stop sequence comes around. Then we might see some drivers going for an undercut, maybe an overcut, if they're feeling particularly spicy out there. But I think around here the overcut will be a little bit challenging if drivers come in. And there we go, Dara. I'll just eat my own words. None of them fancy either of those options, and every single one of them files nicely through into the pit lane. And there's a bunch up in contact there, Dara, I think, between more than one of them actually on the entry there. I think it might have been the InterRacing team who went into the back of Stitchbury, potentially. Let me just ride on board here and see. Does that Mustang have any damage? It doesn't look like it does. Look at the distance there between those two leading Mustangs, but definitely contact between Daniel Pillman and Kieran Sharp. Is it all checked up at the entry line?
Yeah, not exactly what you want to see, but everybody and their ground is in lane right now.
Wow.
With me, that is. I mean, you know how I talked earlier about it's going to be a narrow pit window because it's such a long lap. I didn't quite expect everybody to come in on the same lap. That's the top 11 in Elite so far, the top 10 in Pro, which means that of 27 cars that started this race, at one point there were 20 of them in the pit lane, side by side on exit of the pit lane. That's going to be Kieran Sharp just in front of Daniel Pillman. Is he going to be able to stay in front? No, Pillman's going to... Oh no. Who was that? Oh no, that was Wever, sorry. Oh, but that was Wever, who was just up in front. Kieran Sharp nearly jumped everyone and got himself to third. He's just got the one car now to overtake. Much easier to overtake a car that doesn't have any slipstream than one that's in a train. So he's going to be feeling pretty good, I think.
So Stitchbury and Jennings there losing quite a lot of time, I think, in the pit lane. Let me just review some of those times. I'll bring that to you very shortly, but you could see how delayed Ieuan was, considering they all entered the box more or less at the exact same time. 5 has become 3. We can see that Joris Peters-Wiem has got himself past Stitchbury in that pit window. Work to be done by the DXT Magenta driver. That can't be a shortfall of the Mustang, because Pillman and Wever got themselves out very quickly as well. So let me just review those pit stop times, see how much of an impact that had over Stitchbury. But he's lost out on that exit there in a big way, it seems, and it's going to be very difficult for him now to claw back what is the best part of 5 or 6 seconds to that trio of cars just at the bottom of our frame right now. He's got to get past that BMW of Joris Peters-Wiem first, and also worry about Ben Woodgate in behind him too.
Yep, Ben Woodgate is right there. I mean, there's no other way about it. He's just sitting on the rear end of Ieuan Stitchbury, which can't be comfortable because Ieuan is also sitting on the rear end of Joris. So it's a horrible spot to be in. He doesn't want to be in it anymore, going to the inside line. They're going to be side by side on the exit. It's going to give a good run to Ben Woodgate. Ben Woodgate's going to pick off Ieuan Stitchbury. Can he also use it to pick off Joris? It's going to depend on who Joris gives the slipstream to. In the end, he gives it to Ben Woodgate as they go down. They're fighting for it. They're banging doors, as you'd expect, as they fight to try and claim that little bit of an advantage. But they've got to be careful as they come in towards the Mulsanne. Ieuan's going to have the advantage, but they're both gaining here on Joris, and now Ieuan's caught up in the middle. So what was the advantage now turns into a deficit, and Ben Woodgate can just plough down the middle. Sorry, plough down the middle, plough on the inside, take the spot, and now try and pull away. The difficulty is both Joris and Ieuan are now going to have the slipstream, but he's got the track position, which is also important. Yeah, 2 positions gained in just one corner there. Great exit out of the second Mulsanne and going into the Mulsanne corner itself. Managed to get the both of them. Slight contact, I think, on the BMW, and Ieuan sticking a wheel up the inside through this fast right-hander. It's going to be tricky for that boxed BMW now, who finds himself stuck on the outside. There you go, backs out appropriately. Ieuan doesn't stick it up the inside as they head through that high-speed right-hander. Great exchange here between these 3 drivers, and it's, well, downside for the BMW is the upside for the McLaren, and it's not over yet as Ieuan looks to get a switchback. Slight contact on the exit as he looked for a switchback, and that's kind of halted his progress a little bit
on the exit, but he is going to be able to get himself alongside. The track will favour him for now, but it will soon fall away. But he's going to have a decent advantage as they head into the Porsche curbs. It's going to be tricky for Ieuan to see the car on his inside, and the BMW nearly getting the overspeed there, but the corner comes too soon for that. And on the outside line, Ieuan cannot hold on, reclaims that position. Does Ben Woodgate through the Porsche curves. Brilliant racing by these guys. I don't really want to cut away, although there are things going on further down the road. Held on, and that's a big snap there by Woodgate. That's going to allow the Mustang to think about it once again, going into the final corner, final series of corners, and Ieuan is going to dive up the inside, potentially has to be careful. The BMW coming back at it, no breath, no room to breathe for any of these two drivers for most of that entire outlap there.
Yeah, it's just been constant pressure from left, right and centre. Woodgate, though, is the one with the advantage. And Joris somehow going from 6th to 8th in all of that, but still there. And more than capable of making a move back on the two of them. Dadath with a slowdown in the Pro, Break back with a slowdown they picked up in the same spot, mind you. Wherever that may have been, I think probably down at the final couple of corners, or through at least the Porsche curves. Ieuan with a slowdown as well. That's going to send Joris through. And it's going to mean that Ieuan's kind of on the verge of losing a bit of the slipstream down this Mulsanne straight, which is not ideal at all, but he's served the slowdown, and he's back on it. And all of a sudden, here's a look at Danny Phillips. Danny Phillips started this race on pole. He went off the road in about turn 4 and went to the back of the field. He's now back up to P2, and we're not even halfway through the race yet. If I was Adam Lynch, I'd be very worried. And Patrick Falconer might not want to mess with Danny, and might want to use Danny's pace, really, to drag him up towards Leon Seeley.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth there. I was thinking Patrick should really let him go and try and stay with him for as long as he can, because it's doing neither of them any favours to be so close to one another. And Danny might be wanting to wait now until they get to the Mulsanne. I think he will stay in behind him now. He'll maybe make that move going into into the Mulsanne right-hander. We'll soon see. Is he going to take him heading down toward the next chicane? We'll soon see, but I think he'll want a break away from the slipstream, not to invite Mr. Falconer back on him. Not a defensive line at all by that yellow McLaren, inviting the inside line to the DXT driver. Is he going to go for it? He might have no choice but to go for it a little bit earlier than he might have liked, Danny Phillips. But that, as we said, that is him up to second place now, which we've already covered on a number of occasions. And let's just flash back up the overall standings then. So he only has Leon Seeley between him and his class leader, so he's got clear track ahead of him at the moment, Danny Phillips, to try and drive into. Let's see if he can set a few of his favoured qualifying laps, and over the next 47.5 minutes, is it going to be enough for him to claw back much of that 6.5 second deficit that he has to Adam Lynch? And Adam has to be careful here, because he has got Leon Seeley for company in behind him. I think he's been bumped and pushed through Indianapolis down toward through between the Mulsanne, Arnage and Indianapolis. I think they are making contact there, Dara, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, I think they were, and he's backed off nicely. So Leon Seeley not wanting to take that place, favouring Adam Lynch, it seems, at the moment.
Yeah, it looks a little bit uncomfortable, doesn't it? If you're Adam Lynch right now, Leon Seeley's going to sit there, but Adam Lynch is very much aware of it. But I think he wouldn't mind necessarily a bit of a bump draft when he can see Danny Phillips just starting to turn that screw, gain in that little bit more as we approach the half race distance mark. This will be the 11th lap completed, I do believe. Is that right, Joe?
Correct, Dara. About to enter onto the 12th.
Yes, exactly. So 11 have gone, which means that we will have 12 to go. Which, when you put it like that, doesn't really feel like there's much of the race left. But they've still got about 48 minutes or so for us to run here at the centre de la Sarde. Kieran Sharp on the back of Niels Weber. He's not been able to make use of the pace just yet, but he's lurking. And that Lamborghini is very fast in the straight line. Last time by 53.9 for Anders Myhre, matched by these guys in P3. So they're 7 seconds off the lead. You wouldn't expect them to catch, but it just shows that Lonka's a good pace at the minute.
Absolutely, and so a little bit further down the order, it's Jan Jančík on the back of Sean Breitenbach. This is for a place inside the top 10, so decent points on offer in this 90-minute extended format. Lawrence de Dapper is around and off through toward the back end of the Porsche curves. He's going to have to get that one back on the road, give himself just enough clearance to get right hand down, but he wasn't able to do it in a 3-point turn. It's a 5-point turn for the Belgian as he gets his way moving again. Not an ideal lap there for Laurent as he heads himself into the pit lane. I was going to say he'll join Mav Gardner, who still sits in the pit lane, sadly out of this race. Kieran Sharp all over the back of the NJB Performance Mustang. Again, is he going to think about this move? Backs off before the braking zone. I think he is again thinking, right, well, I'm not going to catch the top two, so let's see if we can cement that podium by just clinging on to the back of the Mustang, making a move a little bit later on. But it's such a long time to wait for that, and you never know what's going to happen up ahead. If Brandon Dyer were to make a mistake and drop a couple seconds worth, then Kieran Sharper got himself by a little bit sooner. He could claim those points. Let's see what he chooses to do. There's no telling that he's going to stay where he is, but it certainly looks like he's just benefiting from that slipstream at the moment as he gets off the throttle a little bit earlier than he gets onto the brake pedal and stays in behind the current podium sitter of Nils Favre. Good performance so far by the Lamborghini, as you said, Dara, the one and only Lamborghini out there, doing it good. Yeah, doing good stuff at the moment in that car, which is not at all a favoured choice. Is he going to come off the throttle again? A little bit of lifting course? Yes, he is. I think he's very happy just to sit where he is for the time being.
Because of course he did undercut. Well, I say he didn't undercut. That's a complete lie. He did get through on a few people in the pit stop, which means he would have had to have shortened on fuel somewhat to have made up that time. So, because I wouldn't have expected them to take tyres in that first pit stop at least at all. So I think he may have shortened on the fuel a bit, which means he would be happy to sit and save and just use the slipstream that Nils Favre is giving him to just be a little bit kinder on that tank as they work their way towards Indianapolis for what is indeed the 12th time in this race. And yeah, maybe that's why he's not necessarily going for the move, because I can't see any other reason that he wouldn't at least attempt it, because he seemingly got some good pace. As Leon Seeley and Adam Lynch come back into frame. Last time we talked about them, Joe, the gap to back to Danny Phillips was 6 seconds. And 4.7.
And he's just there, look. The camera didn't even have to change. We picked up the same TV cam there as Adam Lynch passed by with Leon Seeley. And now we might just see them ahead. There they are. So Danny Phillips will be absolutely thrilled by what he's seeing in front of him at the moment. He's managed to recover all of that time lost, minus 4.5 seconds over the last half of this race, and he's got another 42 minutes to make that time back. And the fastest man, well, one of the fastest men in the entire field during qualifying, of course, starting on the front row of the grid, as I said, will be filled with confidence in his own ability, and you'll be pleased to see that Chris Jennings is struggling to make headway. As we said earlier, Jennings can't really afford too many poor finishes outside the top 3, top 4, top 5, especially on race events where Danny Phillips outscores him. I believe from memory it was only 37 points the difference. Yes, it was 37 points between the two of them coming into this one, and that's a gap that Jennings can't really afford to lose. After this one, he'll only have 3 more rounds to outscore Mr. Phillips, and it's been pretty level pegging over the last 3 weeks between the two leaders in the championship. Let's see what Danny can do before the end of the race. And Jennings, sadly for him, in a bit of no man's land at the moment. 5.5 seconds down on Hockley, 4 seconds clear of Bobby Moss. It's all just mind games now for Jennings. He's got nobody around him. Just got to keep focused and see if he can claw back some of that lap time. Maybe try and get on the back of Sam Hockley before the end of this race.
Yeah, let's see if he can do too much then in this middle stint to try and bring things back towards him. 40 minutes remain. I mean, I said a little while ago that we're through the first hour. It's going to, time's going to feel like it goes quite quickly from here, and it has, because we're now pretty much 50 minutes into the race with only 40 to go, well into the second half. And again, when you think about it in terms of we only have less than a dozen laps to go, nearly just a couple of handfuls of laps remain. it's going to pass quite quickly. I mean, you spend so much time down the Mulsanne that your overtaking opportunities are going to feel fewer and further between. Because realistically, you can't overtake it more than maximum of 7 places. Or let's go with 8 this circuit. It means that if you've got about 10 laps, you're not really looking at that many more chances to make moves. You have to try and gain the time, particularly in the Porsche curves. And I think these next 3 or 4 laps are going to be crucial in terms of the pace of the cars and seeing who's got the pace, who maybe has to back off a bit if they've underfueled the car a touch, just to kind of see how it plays out, because this is where the strategy battle comes into effect.
I don't think all season, Dara, we've been so far away from the finish line before you start pulling out the maths about how many overtaking opportunities we've got left. 40 minutes is the record for this season, as we see a tight battle ahead between Jared Love and Max Wheeler. Sam will be loving to see this, of course, because that Audi in front of him is his competitor to get himself on the podium. We mentioned it once or twice already during this broadcast that Hockley, one of only 2 in the Pro Class yet to get himself on the podium, and he won't be too bothered by that really, because this will be, if he can hold on, this will be his strongest finish of the season. 2 P6s, his prior best results in the 2nd and the 5th round of the championship, and only 1 more inside the top 10 for him. So very, very good time to score good points, especially in a 90-minute race right towards crunch time, toward the back end of the season, and with the likes of Lewis Hammond struggling a little bit down there further in the order, and he's ahead of Chris Jennings, I believe the only driver. Where's Bobby Moss? Bobby Moss is behind him as well. So a lot of drivers, aside from Danny Phillips, who are ahead of him in the championship, are behind him on the road. So far, so good for Mr. Hockley. He's going to have to hope that Jared Love doesn't put up too much of a defence in his attempt to get by, so that he can put a challenge on the Audi ahead.
Yep, and I think it'll be a case of keeping an eye on what Max Wheeler's doing. He's been kind of up and down the order a little bit, hasn't he, over the course of the evening so far. Well, I say up and down the order, kind of up and just down that little part, right? That little part of the order, 2nd to 4th, really. But he's bobbed around, as has the Ieuan Stich. He's fallen back a little bit, though. Won't be overly pleased, the Welshman. But he's right behind Joris, who he's been kind of attached at the hip with for quite some time. They've allowed Ben Woodgate to get away, and that won't be pleasing. Name we haven't mentioned in a while is Daniel Pillman, and that's because he's kind of in the middle of nowhere. He's behind this battle between Waver and Sharp by 5 seconds, and he was ahead of that battle between Woodgate, Joris, and Ieuan by 5 seconds. So he's kind of stuck. He's just there in the background. You can see him. See what he can do on the strategy to maybe bring himself back into it.
Yeah, I'd be interested if these drivers are going to go in for another stop. I would imagine they will, Dara, because they went in so early that would they be able to fill up the tank all that way again? I'm not quite sure. Time will tell, of course, but it's a different strategy during the 90-minute races, particularly around these parts. So let's wait and see if that offers another change in the order, another spanner in the works perhaps. But at the moment, the best battles that we have are between Wever, Sharp, Veem and Stitchbury, and then Brittenbach, of course, and Jan Janšik down there in the Pro Class. Danny Phillips has brought that 6-second gap down to 4, and now it is 3.5. So he's cleared Leon Seeley, actually, who was that Mustang at the back of the picture, and now it's clear road ahead. He's got his eyes set and his targets locked on that McLaren. 2 British McLaren drivers in this battle for the race victory here. 37 minutes just gone. Plenty of time for things to change, and we'll keep our eyes on that timing tower as it comes down and down, lap after lap. The last time out for these guys, it was Adam Lynch with a 55.3, Danny Phillips with a 54.3, so a second's worth of an advantage every lap, it seems, at the moment for Danny Phillips. So let's see, within the next 10 or 15 minutes we might see Phillips right on the back of Adam Lynch.
Yep, and that'll be quite exciting if Danny can get all the way back up to the front. And I think it would be the most well-earned win of the season, wouldn't it, if he's able to come back to the front after going from first to last back up to first again. All in the space of a 90-minute race here at Le Mans. Ieuan, is he going to go for the move this time? No, he's not quite close enough, is he? Down in towards the Mulsanne, in towards Mulsanne corner itself. And I don't think he'd necessarily want to go for the move down through here. Fun little fact that which will be fun. I actually know someone that lives about 50 yards further down the road here in Malvern.
Wow.
And they say they get free tickets every year because they live so close. 'Cause it's such a disruptor, because of course they can't go into Le Mans on the normal roads.
Of course, yeah. So instead, go and enjoy some motorsports. I wonder if they've got a little model of their house in the distance further down that road. If you were to remove the barriers, potentially they could go and visit their own little gaff a little bit further down the road. That is an interesting fact, Dara, actually. I'm surprised you haven't pulled that one out in the past, because if that was me, I would pull it out every single time we come here.
It's ironic, actually, because the person who that is helped me on that A-level presentation about the French Grand Prix.
Oh, well, there we go.
It's kind of got two mentions in one.
So you can say in French, my friend lives down the road as well, probably. You probably threw that one into the speech.
Down the road is.
I'm sure there's an alternative phrase in French that probably isn't directly translatable.
Yeah. I mean, one thing is, we have cul-de-sacs here in the UK.
Sac de cool?
Thing in France. No, it's just not a thing in France.
It's just not a thing. What, is there an alternative? Surely they must have a word for it.
I don't really think they... Well, I asked about it, and they basically said, well, no. Because cul-de-sac means bottom of the bag.
Does it?
So it doesn't really make any sense at all.
It doesn't make any sense in English. I mean, not a lot does. Well, actually...
No,
it doesn't really. I was going to say not a lot makes a lot of sense in French either. Like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Dara, but did they just give up creating new numbers when they got to 79? And instead of coming up with a word for 80, they just say 40-20, and then that just continues on for a while. I mean, who does that? Who does that?
And then like 99 is 420s and
19. Yeah, I know. It's bonkers. Yeah. It's absolutely. But anyway, you can tell we're getting sidetracked as Patrick Falconer gets himself by that stricken Ieuan Stich, who must have made a mistake. He's kicked up quite a lot of gravel on the exit of the final corner. Schubert Cardozo here toward the back, Jan Janczyk and John Breitenbach keeping each other company, an Audi, a BMW and that McLaren. And Sam Hockley is still contesting with Jared Lowe as they come over that lovely crest through the Dunlop curve and into the S's section before they head out of the Tetra Rouge onto the first main straight of the lap. Hockley has to get a move on with things, really. Sadly for him, Max Wheeler has darted up the road over 3 seconds clear now. Adam Lynch, look at this, Dara. Adam Lynch with a slowdown penalty. Danny Phillips is bearing down on him now. The targets were set before. They're almost certainly locked in on him now.
Yeah, indeed they are. And Danny's just going to be absolutely loving it as he sees Adam Lynch get ever bigger in front of him. That gap was 2 seconds before the slowdown. What is it on the exit of the corner? 2.063 comes down to 1.573. That's half a second he's gained through that corner alone because of the slowdown. So beautiful stuff for him. He'll be absolutely thrilled as Adam gets closer and closer. And I mean, even if this was an hour-long race, he may have even still been able to come back to first, right? Because we've not even got to that point yet.
No, exactly. It's I'm very pleased that we've got this up for grabs, because sometimes you get to this point in the race and things become a little bit stale. Still, drivers haven't learned the boundaries of track limits as Ieuan Stich finally gets himself past Joris Peters Veem. Sadly, again, it's another slowdown that has afforded that change of position. And Jamie Bardwell down there last, currently 13th in the order in the Pro Class, also serving that slowdown. So again, you'd like to think that as we approach the 2/3 mark of this race, that people would realise where those track limits are. But again, very easy to make those mistakes. I don't think we saw many people changing tyres either in the pit stop, of course. Not the most abrasive circuit for these drivers to deal with, to try and keep the tyres in order. It's obviously, as we've said, it's just a lot of straights and pretty slow speed corners, so not too demanding. But again, by the end of 90 minutes, if you haven't already changed your tyres, it might get a little bit wobbly, especially through high speed corners like this where the load all of a sudden falls away, and you can often find yourself with a handful of oversteer heading off into that gravel trap at the back of the picture then. So half an hour to go. Let's see if anyone comes into the pit lane, and if they do, they might fancy some fresh rubber underneath them to bring home in the final few laps.
Yeah, and we are at the point of the final few laps, aren't we? Really?
Correct. Yeah.
8 or so to go. Kieran Sharp still behind Niels Weber. Interested to see when the final pit stops take place. Of course, you'd expect them to be about the 20-minute mark. I think there'll probably be about 4 laps to go to the end. Once everything's said and done, maybe 5, maybe even 3 even, depending on how long they want to push it for. But then I'll be interested to see how much fuel they have to take on, because all they're taking on is what they need for the end. They're not going to take on any extra. So the differential in the opening stint's going to then kind of settle itself out, then play out through the second stint. But Kieran Sharp's not complaining. He's going faster than he has all race long. 53.1. That's his fastest lap.
Good for him. I was just about to pick out Ieuan Stich and say that I was surprised he wasn't making up as much time as he normally does now that he's cleared a couple of cars. But as Joris had to hand over that place on the last lap, Ieuan has had to give it back to him again, and he's just about cleared it as they head through the Dunlop curve. He's going to be all over the back. The battle resumes. Joris probably thought, right, well, at least I can have a little breather now and not have that Mustang bearing down on me. But less than 1 lap later, the battle resumes. Normal service, it seems, between these two tonight.
Yep, good to see. As they are battling out, but Moss into the pit lane, Jared Love into the pit lane. So a little bit of action starting. Maybe next lap we're going to see the big crush down pit lane, but I'm not entirely sure if and when it'll happen, and if we see something similar to the opening stint where everybody came down pit lane all at once. Sharp, you can almost be forgiven for thinking he's not there as he hides behind Niels Weber in towards the first chicane at the Mulsanne. And that gap up to Brandon Dyer, it's only 2 seconds, isn't it? So, yeah, there's definitely some hope for them to maybe even push towards P2 here. I mean, Anders Myhre isn't that far away either, considering that he's been kind of unmentioned for about, well, 35 minutes. Actually, more than that. Yeah. 45 minutes, yeah. Since he's taken the lead, he's far in front.
No, and I was just about to say, things are starting to bunch up a little bit now, and if, having seen how much fuel saving that Kieran Sharp has done in behind Niels Weber, if them two go in the pit lane at the same time, I will be incredibly disappointed. Surely Kieran's managed to extend a little, although to get an entire lap of additional fuel is a challenge. I understand that, but you know, he stayed there for the last, well, many laps, and so you'd like to think that he's managed to conserve enough fuel there. Leon Seeley doing what he does best and pushing a fellow driver toward the next set of corners, and Max Wheeler is going to have to just play this one carefully at the moment. He's got no threat really, he's got no chance at getting up with the top 2 unless of course they have it coming together, which is becoming more and more of a possibility. Another slowdown being served, and in fine style by the Audi, he weaves his way out of that one. And what I want to highlight there, Dara, is, well, actually, Kieran Sharp again hiding behind that Mustang. I keep coming over to them just to see if that Lamborghini is going to fancy a move, but I think we've seen enough from him to suggest that he is not going to. But big news of the night then, Danny Phillips for the first time is within a second of the race lead since he lost it just over an hour ago.
Yep, indeed. And he's looking like he's going to be trying to reclaim that position. Now, how does he go about it? That's the question. Does he go for the move early? Does he sit and wait? Does he try and play the longer game? Difficult, really, to know exactly what to do for Danny Phillips. I don't necessarily think he would have thought he would have been in this position after being last coming through Turks Rouge for the first time. After he was walking it off the road, but it's now where he finds himself, and 3/10 of a game through Indianapolis, through Arnage goes now, right on the tail. And it is a complete head-to-head. Adam Lynch versus Danny Phillips. The pace of Danny Phillips in this race would be hard-pressed to bet against him. Absolutely
right. It's pressure on for the lead driver at the moment. Hasn't found himself in this position too often so far this season. In fact, is he even in the top 12 of the standings? No, he's not. So a very out of the ordinary position for the Euro Titans Endurance Blue McLaren. And a very familiar position, in fact, for the DXC Magenta driver. So a big contrast between these two cars out there on the track. 2 McLarens doing battle, as we said, 2 British drivers in British machinery. Are we going to see them pulling into the pit lane on this occasion? No, they glanced, as you do, on the entry to that corner, but they stay out for another tour, another 13 kilometres at least, before we see any action in the pit lane for the 2 leaders in the progress.
Yep, nice to see. As Joris Peters comes into pit lane, it's nice to see them almost, yeah, it's not quite a dummy because it's what you do, but it almost feels like a dummy, isn't it? In towards the final couple of corners. Sharp and Joris stopping together. The fact that Sharp's coming now means that he did underfill the car a little bit. Let's see what the impact of that is going to be after everybody comes down pit lane. You'd expect maybe then, therefore, could be next time by, or just the extra, or a secondary extra lap even. Danny, 3/10 back now. He's just gone through the corner in which he went off on the opening lap. He's going to gain down the Mulsanne straight. It's now a choice of what do you do, because he's got the pace to go for the lead. How eager does he want to be about it? Yeah,
let's see. It could be now. Could be his option. But if he's too eager on it, he might open the exit for the next corner. Let's see. I think he might just stay where he is and hold on till a little bit later on in the race. Defensive goes the McLaren, thinking that he's going to make that move. But as predicted, Phillips doesn't quite want to take that position just too soon. Probably didn't expect that little bump through the exit. Oh, and that's deep by the McLaren. He might have no choice but to pass him here, Danny, because he's so far. No look at that. He's going to continue to bump draft. Strategy and mind games in the offing here, it seems, for the DXT driver, who had a clear opportunity to get by Adam Lynch in both occasions there, but again, on both of them, has chosen to stay put. He's going to be early on the brakes as we move back over to the right-hand side to take this next chicane. And Adam is just going to have to, well, keep doing what he's doing, stay ahead. He's not going to just give the place up, but the exit, time and time again here, Phillips definitely has a big advantage.
Yeah, and Phillips is going to be thinking that he's got a good chance maybe down into this Mulsanne corner. Is he going to go for it? Oh, he's looking. He's thinking. He's just about looking out of the slipstream, but he's not going to go for it in the end. It's too tight to then send it into the second part. And he will sit in P2 for a little bit longer. I wonder if they'll both come in this time by. And then we'll see if anything happens, because they're close enough together that the slightest difference on pit lane could be really quite important. 24 minutes to go, still time, but I think he might want to give it a go in the pit lane and then see if he can almost get away without having to do it on the circuit.
Yeah, I was just thinking there, if I was Danny and I knew that I was going to come into the pit lane on this lap, I would probably try and get by, just so that you can maximise the entry, of course. Sometimes, I mean, it's different. It depends on who you're coming up against, of course. Sometimes it's easier to match the car in front and sort of push it just enough to not run into the back of them, because if you're the first car into the pit lane, sometimes you're a little bit cautious of being rear-ended, which can mean you brake later than you want to, and thus you end up picking up a back flag because you end up speeding in the pit lane. So a tricky one. I do think I would rather trust the driver in behind not to rear-end me, enter the pit lane first, try and get a good entry, and then of course come out ahead, which is what should happen on paper, of course. Never often happens like that in practice, but into the Porsche curves we go. Let's soon see, Dara, if they're going to come in or if they're going to go around for another 13-kilometre tour.
Yep, you'd feel like I think they're going to come in this time. That's my superstition, based off of the fact that I'm not entirely sure. But Niels Wever's come in, Daniel Pillman's come in. Are they going to come in? Let's find out. I feel like Danny Phillips at least might come in, because he did a little bit extra. Oh, maybe not. They'll both go around again. What do I know, Joe?
Oh,
what do I know?
Well, you had your superstition, but the writing wasn't on the wall on that occasion.
Yeah,
and they go
that's
around.
why I don't bet.
Well, there you go. Hey, don't gamble, kids. Don't gamble. So there you go. Dara taking the sensible option. He would have lost out on that occasion. Ieuan Stich, Niels Wever and Daniel Pillman. All three of them in the pit lane. There's the two NJB Performance Mustangs. Here comes Stitchbury. I was going to say he'll be hoping not to lose out on any more places there. Is that Kieran Sharp? Yes, Kieran Sharp was sat there for a long time. I thought he was an early entry into the pit lane, Dara, but he's got a meatball and he's out. So that will promote a few more. That will promote Ben Woodgate into P3. Really, really unfortunate there for Kieran, because he's had a cracking race toward the front of the order.
He really has. And it's been good to see him run towards the front. It's just a shame that it's seemingly going to end in this way. I mean, that's just how it goes sometimes, isn't it? Maple Flag's going to be pretty much the end of him. I wouldn't expect to see him back out on circuit. Danny Phillips, is he going to go for the move? Adam Lynch is defending on the run down into this first chicane, because he needs to get back to the outside line. Look, Danny, I mean, he would have hit that cone pretty hard if it was real. As he comes through the first part of the chicane, he's going to get a much better exit as well. Is this his chance? Not entirely sure, but he's as close as he could possibly be without going for the move.
Yeah, well, it's a 13.5-second gap down to Max Wheeler, so no hurry at all for Danny Phillips to get by. He knows, based on the last few laps, that when he wants to make that move, he will be able to make that move. Coming out of every single chicane, he's got the McLaren on traction, no doubt about that. Let's see how it goes coming out of the second Lausanne chicane on this occasion. Is he going to close up once again? Yes, he is. He's gaining and gaining on him. So I think 100% Phillips is in the position, in the power position at the moment, in control. And while he's not dictating the race lead, he's certainly dictating the race leader as it stands. 20 minutes left to go, and he might be able to get him in the pit box, to be honest, Dara. You never know. He probably have to fill up less, won't he, because he'll have saved a little bit more fuel, so he might be able to shave off those additional litres that he will need to see the checkered flag, and however many seconds or tenths of seconds that he saves in doing so might get him ahead of Adam Lynch without having to do it on the circuit.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that'll be the most beneficial to him. It's the easiest way to make a move, isn't it? So I think that'll be what he's aiming for. In towards Indianapolis and Arnage they go. Less than 20 minutes now then on the clock. Time really has ebbed away from us. We've only got, what, another 5 laps when we cross the line, I think, with Anders Myhre. Especially with the pit stop in the offing. Is that right? No, that's not right, is it? Oh, it is right. No, I am right. So 5 more to go when we cross the line. Max Wheeler nearly going for it on Sam Hockley. They're going for it in the end in towards Indianapolis, but Hockley feels like he's on the ropes at the minute. Look at the defensive lines he's throwing. Max Wheeler is all over the rear end of that McLaren.
Well, I hate to correct you there, Dara, but that is in fact Sam Hockley getting himself onto the podium as he passes up the inside through the high-speed right-hander. Is he going to clear him before they reach Indianapolis? Just about backs out that Audi. So great move by Hockley. We kind of doubted him a little bit earlier on, and he's slammed that right back in our faces. Up into the podium places for the first time this season for Chaps Motorsport. I can't, no disrespect to Max Wheeler, of course. He had a brilliant run out, of course, winning this race in his class in the UKSR GT3 Season 19 session earlier in the week. So nothing that he isn't used to out there around this circuit. But it would be nice, considering we mentioned it right back toward the start of the session, if Mr. Hockley can, again, add another podium to the list of podium sitters in the Pro class. Both of them coming into the pit lane. Let's see how they differ on the entry, of course. You can see on the brakes, Easy does it, and I think he's just gained half a car length on Mr. Hockley as they enter the pit lane. Then Anders Myhre stays out. Leon Seeley stays out as well, claiming second spot for the time being. He'll soon lose that when he comes back into the pit lane. Danny Phillips is in, and he is ahead of Adam Lynch just by the position of his pit box. So Adam Lynch will have arrived in the pit lane earlier on. You can see his competitor Danny Phillips a little bit earlier on. He's on the gas, he's ready to go, and look at that, Dara. As predicted, Danny Phillips saves a good 3 or 4 seconds, probably even more by the time they get up to speed there, and that is position retaken many minutes later. Of course, pole man down to the back of the field, all the way back up to first place for this man here. So far so good for Danny Phillips. He's got 17 minutes to hold on to what he has been able to claw back over the last hour and 13 minutes.
Yep, handful of laps, and I don't think an hour ago he would have expected, 1 hour and 13 ago he would have expected to be back in this position after he went off the road. Here is Niels Weber trying to get through on Brandon Dyer. Dyer on the left, Weber on the right as we look at it. On the outside line, can Niels get it stopped in time? He's going to brake later, and he's got it done into the first part of the Mulsanne, or the first chicane on the Mulsanne. Brandon Dyer is going to have the better slipstream down in towards the second part, but for the time being, the Mustangs into the podium.
Yeah, let's see how this goes on. We kind of missed that a little bit. I didn't think that Niels was so close to Brandon Dyer there. I'm not sure how that last pit stop fared for the altitude-free McLaren, but he is coming back at the Mustang at a rate of knots here. Defensive line, and they're going to continue to bump draft each other. We're not going to see many moves until the back end of this race. Again, early on the brakes, as you would expect for someone so close to the gearbox of the car ahead. Anders Myhre halfway through the lap on this occasion. Here comes Ieuan Stich now putting pressure on Ben Woodgate. That would get him back into the top 6. Chance at that for sure for Ieuan in that Mustang. Daniel Pillman a little bit further up the road, but still well well within touching distance, and Bobby Moss side by side with Jean Breitenbach as they enter the first chicane. Around the outside hangs that Ferrari, but I'm not sure if he's going to get the best exit here. Let's see. It's okay, but Bobby Moss has got that inside line already. Tucks back into the slipstream, trying to a little bit of overspeed on the Ferrari, but Jean moves over to defend that inside line very early indeed.
Yeah, let's see as it continues. Bobby Moss inside line. It's going to go towards the right-hand side of the circuit. John Breitenbach, is he going to be able to claim the inside line? Just about. Bobby Moss is up inside for the second part of the chicane, which is the crucial part, and gets a good enough exit to kind of push him out of the corner. There was Ieuan Stich. You can just about see his nose poking into the frame there. He's gaining on these two as they battle away. Don't count the Audi driver out either, because he is firmly in this tussle for what is P8 now. Yeah,
it'll be a good result for Ieuan Stich as I kick my fan over. Let me just pick that bad boy up, because that's keeping me nice and cool up here in the comments booth. Ben Woodgate still under pressure from Ieuan Stich, getting closer and closer, of course. Daniel Pillman, a little bit of a sitting duck there. No one to tow him around the lap. He's the one doing all the hard work at the front of this mini train. And Ieuan Stich picking up the maximum slipstream that he can really ask for at the moment. Eurospeed is Veeam 8.5 seconds down. There was a moment when those two drivers were exchanging positions not so long ago, and now Ieuan has gained over an 8-second advantage over the BMW and looks ahead now toward the top 5. Leon Seeley comes into the pit lane. Anders Myhre stays out again then, so I think he is now the only driver in the entire field to oh no, pit count 2. Anders already been in the pit lane once again. Leon Seeley was the last man to come into the pits. I've missed that from the race leader. I thought he'd only been in once, but my records suggest that he's been in twice, so he will hold on to that position. That means that Niels Weaver and Brandon Dyer take those places inside the top 3, and Nils finds himself in a very, very favourable position as things stand. Only one podium to his name so far this season, but he's finished inside the top 10 on every single occasion outside of the opening round, so it's been a very, very good run of form for the German driver, who finds himself 4th coming into this one tonight, and now second place will be his best result of the season. If he loses out that position to Brandon Dyer, it will be his joint best result of the season, so a podium he'll be very, very happy with. But it's very good to see that as we've lost Dara, as we've lost the enticing battle for the lead in the pro class between Phillips and Lynch, we've picked up another one here between Brandon Dyer and Niels Weaver.
We have indeed. So where one falls away, another rises up, clearly. Daniel Pillman fighting away with Ben Woodgate as well. Woodgate, there's contact into the corner as they both try and turn in. Very tight. Pillman just he's trying to push Woodgate off the road.
He's going to get them both.
He's going to walk through. Is he going to be able to get the run on the two of them? He's got through on one. He's got through on two. Can Woodgate get the speed back in the slipstream? Can even Pillman get the speed back in the slipstream? It doesn't really matter for Ieuan. He's back into P4. And with how much of the race is left in the gap to P3, it'll feel like the maximum for him now. He's just now got to defend in the final few laps.
I know this is the difficulty. As good as that will feel for Ieuan, he now is probably in the least favourable position out of all three of these cars, given the fact that we do still have 3 or 4 laps left in this race. So it's pretty tricky now for Ieuan. Is he going to have to go on the defensive? Are these guys going to put on a challenge? Of course, we've seen so many cars staying inside the slipstream, but that's only because of the amount of time remaining in the session. When it begins to get to crunch time, you're going to see these drivers wanting that place. You can't assume that you're going to get an opportunity now later in the race. You have to take it when it comes up, and that's exactly what the McLaren thought about doing there. It doesn't quite get it ahead, neither on the exit. Has to think about it again, but that's helped Ieuan actually. A few tenths lost in the mid-corner there between the two drivers in behind has allowed Ieuan just to open up a little bit of additional breathing room, which will probably now feel a lot more comfortable, and that double pass on the exit of the first Mulsanne chicane earlier on will feel a lot more rewarding than it might have done after on the exit of that corner a little bit earlier on.
Yeah, indeed. Ieuan, he's just going to try and run away from this.
Yeah.
Into the corner, contact. Wood gets into the wall. Really, it's going to be really hard into the wall. That'll be the end of his race in the McLaren. Then surely no way he gets that back to the pit lane. Maybe he does, but no, look at it. Surely not. it's crabbing. We'll have to wait and see. He's not even got a meatball flag yet. But either way, Leon Seeley and Patrick Falconer will battle. They're now going to maybe get a free position from Woodgate, but you could kind of see that coming. They really went for it through the middle of the corner, didn't they? And just it took the slightest bit of contact, and that's what sent Ben around. And he looks all right somehow.
I'm not sure. Let's see as he heads into the Porsche curves. Let's see how early he comes off. He might just get a big snap of oversteer here, because the balance will not feel very good. Let's listen. Yeah, it's just not good, is it really, for the British driver? He's struggling to get that turned in to the left, and again, that's big damage there on the right-hand side of the car. He's not going to be able to get that one turned in. Good news for him is that it's mostly right-handers around this place, but for every single left that he approaches, it's just masses and masses of understeer. Let's see what he decides to do then. He's going to have to surely bring that one into the pit lane. He can't really go for damage limitation, can he? Yes, into the pit lane he goes. If he can get it slowed down and turned in, he's going to have to just creep it in there, not taking any risk. Use his fast repair, see if he can secure some points in the final 10 minutes of this one. Let's go back, Dara, and assess that one more time.
In towards Indianapolis we go.
Yeah, that's the
I
one.
mean, for that much contact into the wall, I don't know exactly how he's seemingly so unfazed. But yes, of course, there's still damage on the car, but I would have thought there would have been a lot more damage. It doesn't take a lot. You're already turning right. Just a little tap is going to send the car around. That's one of the few he's going to have to put the bones out of, isn't it? I don't think
there's anything wrong with that. No, it's just...
No, Pillman doesn't come down. If you look at... No. If we go on Pillman's onboard or something like that, you'll see that where that line is in the middle of the road... No, he doesn't come down, does he? It's a difficult corner to go through, but... Yeah, it's... There's always a car's width. He's not shut a door. Yeah, seems all right.
Yeah, I think so too. It's one of those. I mean, of course, he'll feel hard done by. Mr. Woodgate rightly to feel hard done by, but in my humble opinion, even though I'm no longer a steward, I think that would be difficult to suggest that Pillman's done anything wrong on that occasion. Just two drivers going, to the hilt there between, not leaving each other. Not to say they're not leaving each other room, but they're getting the absolute maximum out of what's available there, and through a corner like Indianapolis, it's very, very tricky to go side by side, and sadly on that occasion, one of them lost out. So, yeah, tricky one, but I don't think there's much to really say about that. Then Patrick Falconer and Leon Seeley looking to score points inside the top 7. As much as these two haven't really had that much to do in their respective classes, they have featured quite a lot tonight. They've been in and around that mid-pack while the pro drivers have been making their way through. Of course, Leon Seeley bump drafting Adam Lynch a little bit earlier on in the session, and Falconer being sort of stuck in the mixer between the drivers inside the top 5 in the pro class. So good to see we finally got a battle on our hands for these two drivers in their respective classes as we approach the final couple of laps of the race. Then things in the top 8 of the pro class really starting to settle down. Then it's Bobby Moss and Jan Janczyk, the closest drivers in that class. And Brandon Dyer and Ieuan Stich nowhere to be seen, of course. Pillman now behind Ieuan by over a second and a half after they exchange places coming through this section of the track on the last lap. And Dara, what has... Oh no, I was thinking what happened to Sam Hockley, failing to remember that he's in the pro class. So Sam still on for his best result of the season.
Yep, he is, and that'll be a delight for him. He'll be very much pleased with that. I think there's a few drivers that are going to be quite pleased with their results tonight. Of course, it's a smaller grid than we've had over the course of the season so far. It just means that those who've turned up have a better chance of scoring some good points, whereas they may have struggled a little bit more before. Clinton Findle's favour in that elite class up in P2 for the time being. But let's see. Chris Jennings is kind of in the middle of no man's land. He's in P5. He's kind of been up and down the order a bit today as well, with a couple of laps left in his race. Anders Myhre's just crossed the line, isn't he? So, yeah, 2 more laps to go here at Le Mans when everyone crosses the line. And we've kind of got to that stage in the third stint where it's shaking itself out, and there aren't too many cars climbing on each other for some moves. Just that Seeley Falconer battle and that Breakback Yantrick Moss little trio.
Yeah, I was just looking at the points on offer for this one. 150 for Danny Phillips if it stays how it is. Only 99 for Jennings, which is a net swing of 51 points, of course. And Jennings only being 37 ahead coming into this championship tonight. It'll be advantage Danny Phillips as we enter the final triple header of the season. So we said it rightly earlier on, Jennings can't afford to continue to lose out on these big points, especially not on these occasions. And Adam Lynch picking up a slowdown there. And Dara, with this being the last 90-minute session of the season, these big point opportunities are going to be no more after tonight, and we're going to have to rely on the standard 100 points for a race win. So yeah, as things stand then, Jennings will lose the lead of the championship behind Danny Phillips, who again deservedly has had a cracking race at it tonight. No man deserves it more than him on this occasion tonight, so all's fair. But disappointing for Jennings again, like we said, survived that disappointing finish last week in 7th only because Phillips finished 8th, but again not the strongest finish for Jennings while Phillips is leading the race. It's gonna come and bite you eventually, and tonight it seems to have done exactly that.
Exactly, and I think there'll be a lot of positives for him to take, especially with the gap that he's been able to pull towards the end. As
Adam Lynch crash.
On the exit of the first chicane on the Mulsanne, that's going to allow Sam Hockley through. And well, you mentioned it was going to be Sam Hockley's best finish. It's going to get even better.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Then, so that'll put him into second. That's Nils Wever going for his best finish in second in the elite class, and Sam Hockley on for his best finish in the pro class, which is great stuff. Let's see what happened to Adam. And I saw that on the timing tower before I saw it in the live pictures. He's understeered, and then he's so corrected and oversteered, and it's just a mixed bag of everything there for Mr. Lynch there. Let's watch it on from the onboard. Tucks it in. A little bit of oversteer to the left and then to the right, and then he can't catch the balance of the car as it comes from underneath him. Gets it swung around, and then you can see there the two drivers passing him. That's bad damage as well on the front of that car. That might be pretty difficult to navigate through the Porsche curves. Let's see how it does through there. Didn't look too bad, but also not very good either. Bobby Moss picking up another slowdown a little bit further back. Jan Janček reclaiming that position inside the top 9. Nils Wever is all over the back of Brandon Dyer here. We're coming toward the end of this session. Anders Myhre is about to cross the line, which means that it will be white flag on the next time around with under 3 minutes left to go. Here is Anders now making his way toward the pit entry line. So we should see the man up in the marshal post there waving the white flag as he comes on through, which means that for Nils, it's now or never if he fancies taking Brandon Dyer on the next lap.
Yep, white flag about to fly, and will cross the line in his Ferrari and see it somewhere.
No, it's not flying actually.
Well, it's got to be. It's the last lap. There's no way he's going to do. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I don't know whether there's a cut.
He's up there.
Maybe in iRacing.
You can see him.
Yeah,
He's
I
up
don't
there.
know if there are a cut up in iRacing. Maybe they don't fly the white flag until like the final 2 minutes or something. Well, I haven't got a clue. I don't know if there's some like hidden setting or something. But it has to be the last lap.
Exactly.
So yeah, they will be starting. Will be. Oh, there it is. No, it's not.
Anyway.
I saw the big board at turn 1 for a second. But yeah, one final tour. Nils Wever has just a few more chances to overtake Brandon Dyer for P2. Adam Lynch looks like he's kind of been able to manage that gap and manage that damage. Max Wheeler's a second away, so he's got to be careful, but it looks okay for the time being.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So a minute and a half left in this one. This is the battle that we are interested in at the moment, as the German Nils Wever makes his way down toward the first Mulsanne chicane. He's a little bit further off the back of what he would like to be in 6th gear. He's slowly being pulled closer and closer to that McLaren ahead, half a second behind on the exit of the corner. Where's he going to be when they enter the chicane? The timing tower will update. Only gained a 10th on the run down that first section. Looks like he's kept that one a little bit tidier than the McLaren ahead. He's going to once again have the advantage heading down toward the second chicane here, and that toe is going to get more and more powerful, really pushing the revs here through 3rd and through 4th. Bobby Moss has had an incident. He's crashed Schubert Cardozo and Lewis Hammond are in the pit lane as well. Their races are over right toward the end of this session, which is devastating for them. And it looks as though it's going to have to be going, well, it might have to be going into Indianapolis unless he can get it done now, but I don't think he's close enough for that. He might not be close enough to make it happen at all, Dara. We're soon going to see as we approach the halfway point in this lap. There's only a number of opportunities left. You can count them on one hand for Niels Weber.
Yep, you could, and he's going to want to try and get through shortly because it's not going to happen at the Mulsanne. And then let's think, you've got Arnage maybe. Sorry, not Arnage, Indianapolis. And then where really? He's going to have to try and gain it now, but half a second feels a little bit too much to mount in these closing moments. Been a valiant effort though. Brandon Dyer's defended really well in this final stint, knowing that Niels doesn't have anything left to think about after the next couple of laps, and yet he's not been able to put a glove as Neil on to Brandon in the last couple of tours of this circuit. In towards Indianapolis they come, and it's more than comfortable for Brandon to stay in front. The McLaren, not particularly popular choice in Elite, very popular in Pro, but he's handled it very well. He'll be the only McLaren into the top 7 when all is said and done. Wheeler's getting close to Adam Lynch, who's just trying to hang on to that car with damage. It's looking tricky. There could be a moving towards Indianapolis, but at the same time, this is going to be at the line shortly.
Yeah, he will. We'll try not to miss that, but equally, I don't want to miss an exchange for the podium. Adam Lynch, who was leading for a while after that mistake from Danny Phillips earlier on, caused his own incident just a lap ago, and he's all over the back of that McLaren. He's not going to be able to make it work unless he can hang it around the outside, and what a move it would be if he can pull it off. Not quite, not committed enough, and can't get it sent down there on the brakes. So Anders Myhre, fine drive for him at the front, qualified 5th, and he's made his way all the way from 5th up to 1st, and he just ever so slowly, he's burning it out across the line. That is cheeky. That is cheeky by the championship leader. Wins out in style as Brandon Dyer sees out Niels Weber to claim 2nd place. 3rd for him, his joint best result of the season. Cracking way to win this race. And here comes the man of the night, Danny Phillips. He's taken the lead at the front of the Pro Class standings. He's gone from 1st to last, back to 1st again, and finishes it with a 22-second margin. And Max Wheeler has made a mistake because Chris Jennings has just gone into 4th, Dara.
Yep, he has, and means that he's just made the move rather than Wheeler on Lynch, which is kind of what we were expecting to happen. Lynch, can he hold on? Just a few more corners to go to try and claim that podium. He obviously held the lead for such a long time, then spun, got himself some damage. Sam Hockley's going to come through and waltz for P2. But Adam Lynch in behind, can he hold on for Chris Jennings? It's 1/10 of an advantage. In towards the front of the games they come. He just needs to get the car stopped, and surely there's no way through for Chris Jennings. Adam Lynch, one more corner. Can he get it through? Should be able to. Nicely done. And he'll be very relieved to stay on the podium at the end of that.
Yeah, very tense indeed there. And Jared Love and Ben Woodgate crossed the line with less than 1/10 of a second separating them at the checkered flag inside the top 10. Very, very competitive end to this race. And I must admit, Dara, I'm a big fan of what Anders did there. It's a little bit like when a footballer stops the ball on the line and heads it in, gets on his hands and knees and just knocks it over the line, stopping before the line, giving us a little burnout, and skidding that Ferrari over and across the line. Cracking race, cracking 7th round here, sets us up nicely for that final triple header that we have ahead of us for rounds 8, 9 and 10. And yeah, great to see. Great performances. Hockley, Weber, Myhre and Phillips notable. Jennings as well, sort of bringing down that margin. Of course, he will still, I believe, he will still miss out on holding on to that place. He's gained an additional 9 points. So yes, Danny Phillips should still take that position at the front of the standings once the order has been updated. So a cracking race to watch tonight.
Good to see as well. I think so many of the guys getting to the end of the race, generally from the start, from the starting group that we had. And we did have battles all the way through, didn't we? Good to see that it was competitive right to the end of what was an extended race.
Right then, so before we speak to a few of our drivers in the interview booth, let's run on through the order, starting first with our elite class, as always. So, a short run here with only half a grid, 13 drivers in the race and only 11 of them finishing in the end. Then Anders Myhre started 5th, got himself up to 1st in, well, not that long. All to be said, of course. He was favoured by a few drivers ahead of him, picking up slowdowns, which in the end got him from 3rd to 2nd and 2nd to 1st. And once he was in that place, there was no giving that up. Brandon Dyer gave it everything he could, but in the end he finished 8.7 seconds behind the RAA SimSports Ferrari, who again extends the lead at the front of the standings. He'll go from 600 to 750 points as we head into the final 3 rounds. And of course, with no Milton Tomlinson-Dennis here tonight, that gap is going to open up even further than it already was. So big effort there by Anders in the 7th round. Brandon Dyer and Nils Wever had a cracking effort in the end, only half a second separating them across the line in what is Mr. Wever's joint best result of the season so far. Ieuan Stich, a mixed bag for him. He found himself down in 7th or 8th at one point, managed to claw it back into P4 come the end of this one. That will help the DXT Motorsports Magenta team in their hunt for the team's championship. Daniel Pillman will finish in 5th, the second of our NJB performance. Mustangs in the top 5. Joris Peters-Wien in 6th in his BMW, ahead of Leon Seeley, Patrick Falconer, Jared Love and Ben Woodgate, of course, battling up there with the likes of Wien, Pillman and Stitchbury for most of the race. Sadly for Ben, he'll have to settle for 10th. He's ahead of his teammate for the Inter Racing team, Schubert Cardozo, the last of our finishers, Kieran Sharp, who again, very competitive in his Lamborghini, couldn't see the checkered flag. Same can be said for Lewis Kenyon after that incident heading into Indianapolis. A spot for quite a few victims there tonight. He finishes 13th and won't bring home any points.
Over we go then in towards Pro, and what a night for Danny Phillips. He started first, then dropped to last in the opening lap, and then came back to win by the small margin, by 22 seconds in the end. Incredible work from the DXT Magenta driver. Sam Hockley finished in 2nd after being given the position in the end, really, by Adam Lynch after his spin out of the first Mulsanne chicane allowed Hockley through. Lynch had to defend towards the end, and Chris Jennings and Max Wheeler, I should say, pushed him all the way. They finished 3rd, 4th and 5th, split by just over a second. Then a bit of a bigger gap back to James Paisley Knight, who finished in 6th for the Chaps Motorsport team. And it's a 2-6 for Chaps, who I think will be delighted with that. John Breitenbach for the Barbecue Bread Racing team was 7th ahead of Jan Janczyk, who was the only other driver within a minute of the race win. Bobby Moss and Adam Smith finished inside the top 10, with Marcel Breitenbach and Jamie Bardwell on the lead lap. Lewis Hammond had some issues and finished a couple of laps down, but did keep going a lot of the way through the race. Sadly for Lawrence Adapper, for Matt Gardner and for Ross Young, they did not see the checkered flag, and Ross Young barely saw the start.
Right then, so let's jump back and speak to a few of our drivers in the interview booth. And as I would have expected, I'm very pleased that we have Mr. Danny Phillips, who's come in to join us. Let's not use that replay. Of course, of all the replays that I pick, it's when the entire field is sitting in the pit lane. So, oh, and there's another one in the pit lane. 3rd time's a charm. We'll get ourselves on track. There we go. And we can go ahead and pick Mr. Danny Phillips to speak to us then. So, Dara, ready when you are. We'll bring in our winner in the Pro class and see how he's feeling.
Yeah, let's get Danny Phillips in. Danny, welcome in first of all. Congratulations. Can you hear us?
Thank you very much, guys.
Well, Danny, welcome in, mate. I feel like I shouldn't even ask you that much of a complicated question. I should just ask you how you're feeling, because that must have been one of the biggest roller coasters of emotions that you've ever felt in a 90-minute race.
Yeah, you have to make it interesting, didn't I? So, first to first is a bit of a boring result, so I thought I'd just drop it on lap 1 and crawl back through the grid. So, no, it was a great result overall. Yeah, I'm really happy with that, especially the comeback. On that lap 1 there where I dropped it, I thought that was it, game over. Stitch was obviously encouraging me, saying, it's a long race, and I had the pace, which I knew I was going to be strong here this week. I've done really well in the officials all week in Le Mans, so it was just to get my head down, don't lose my my mind over it and just worked my way through, and thankfully managed to get through the traffic mostly unscathed. It was a bit on lap 1 at the end where somebody was getting a bit feisty, but managed to keep it clean enough and start cutting my way through the traffic. But really happy with that result.
I mean, how surprised were you, Danny, over the opening 3-4 laps that you were able to regain so many of the positions? Because I mean, you flew through the field.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at how quick it came initially. I knew that obviously everyone was going to be bunched up at that point, and obviously I didn't. Although I lost the positions, I stayed on the back of the pack, so I kept the slipstream, which helped massively. And obviously it was just a case of taking any opportunity that came my way. I didn't want to get held up and lose too much of a gap later on down the line when the pack started opening up a bit. So some of the moves were not questionable, but I went for it on a few occasions, made sure I got the position and made it clear I was taking that position. But yeah, a lot of it, there was quite a few people could see the pace and just sort of gave it up and quick message on the radio and just said, just give me a flash type thing. And but yeah, there was a couple of fights, but for the most part, people were just generally making it easy. Nobody was. It's a 9-minute race. Nobody was taking any risks of battling side by side when I was coming at them that quick, really.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. It's a long race. We saw that on good display as well for the most part. So take us back to qualifying as well, because we were saying it was the first time that you had a clear track in front of you, of course, side by side with Brandon Dyer. I think it was his first pole position of the season as well. It must have, like you say that you knew you were going to be strong here, but I can't imagine you thought that you were going to start on the front row of the grid.
No, definitely not the front row. I thought I'd be fighting, I thought I'd be P1 in class. I thought I'd have that nailed down with looking at the Garage 61 times that everyone had. I thought I'd be up there, and I thought I'd be in contention with a few of the elite drivers and sort of out of place and create a buffer to the cars behind. But amazing teamwork from Stich, both of us trying to help each other out for our laps and give each other a tow down the Multan. Yeah, it just worked out beautifully. I got a really good lap in on one lap, and then I just tried. I knew I had P1 secured at that point because the gap to P2 in Pro was way too large for anyone to realistically close up unless they were doing the same sort of thing as us, which it didn't look like they were. So it was just about trying to get Stich as high up as we could for him as well in Elite, and try and get a good team result.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what you have achieved. I was going to mention the championships just before we let you go. So from my maths, mate, I think that might be you back at the front. Jennings, of course, finishing 4th in the end, but with this being the extended points, of course, 150 for a win, the margin that you came into this race, you've overdone. So yeah, that might see you back at the front of your class. And then, of course, you're trying to stay within touching distance of the Moonshiners team, who are just starting to open up that gap at the front of the team's championship. But 3 rounds left to go, still plenty on the table, and still plenty that's going to play on your mind, I think it's safe to say.
100%, yeah. Like you said, I think I've got P1 back now for the Drivers' Championship, so I'll just try and hold that now over the next couple of rounds. Another great result for the Magenta team tonight. Barry got a P1 in B split as well, so it's 2 P1s for the team's results. And obviously Stitch's great result as well tonight, which I don't think will play a part in the team's result, will it? Because it's top 2 drivers, I think.
Yeah. Right.
So myself and Barry taking maximum points for that, so really good result over there for the teams, and so hopefully that at least puts us close to P1 again, and we can have a fight to the end for the last couple of rounds.
Great stuff, Danny. Absolutely mega, mate. Man of the night. For sure, it was very entertaining watching you come through the order. It was devastating to see you go off, but obviously great to see you finish with such a big margin as well come the end of that one. So big congrats to you. Before we let you go, if there's anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, as always, then you can go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, first off, Stitch, again, like I say, amazing teamwork in qualifying, and the plan was for us to work together in the race. So thank you very much, Stitch, and the rest of the boys over at DXT. But a huge shout out to the boys over at SimCoach, and especially Josh, who must have been watching the stream, dropped me a message between qualifying and the race, encouraging me and give me some words of wisdom before the start. So thank you very much to SimCoach, because I wouldn't be competing where I am without those boys. Thank you very much. Mate.
Very good stuff, very good stuff. Well, congratulations again. You can go ahead and enjoy the weekend with that one under your belt. Looking ahead to the final 3 weeks of the championship. It's all to play for, mate, so best of luck in your preparation, and hopefully we speak to you this time next week.
Cheers, boys. Good night.
Cheers, Danny.
Cheers, Danny. Good to get a word from Danny. after what was an incredible drive back through the field from him. We have another race winner from the elite class who has been in with us a few times, but it was a little bit more difficult for him tonight. Anders, welcome in. Congratulations once again. Can you hear us, first of all?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Welcome back. And there's another maximum points for you, but it wasn't so easy. It wasn't as easy as what we might have been starting on pole position over the last couple of weeks. So if we can go back to qualifying, talk us through that session. Was it difficult in the car? Were you not able to find the lap? Did you have a lot of traffic that inevitably led you to starting fifth?
Yeah, it was difficult. I didn't have the preparations for the race that I would like to have, so I wasn't really too comfortable with the car coming into it. But yeah, qualifying was a lot. I caught traffic at the wrong times every time I was on an improvement, and then on the final lap I was on my way to a pretty good lap time, but I managed to get a 1x at the end of the lap, so that ruined it all. And I wasn't overly positive that I would be able to fight for the win, to be honest, because I didn't really expect how the car would behave, and I knew that I was down on top speed because I went for a setup with quite a lot of wing to be safe in the final sector. But again, that gave me a lot of speed in the final sector, which I think helped me in the race. So I think it was a good choice.
Yeah, and I mean, when you took the lead, Anders, you didn't necessarily pull the gap as large as we've seen you do earlier in the season. Was that more of a case if you were struggling with the pace? Were you just trying to save a little bit more fuel, conserve what you had?
I felt pretty confident on the pace because I got the feel of the car and the setup and everything during the first couple of laps. So I started to get a good feeling. So I saw that, especially in the final sector, I had a bit of a pace advantage. So I thought I would just try to get out of the slipstream without using too much fuel. And when I did that, I kind of just tried to fuel save as much as I could without letting Brandon back into the draft. So. But then again, in a long race like this, it's also about taking care of the tires. So if I had gone full speed without fuel saving, I don't think the gap would have been much different, because then the tires would have been bad. So yeah, it was about managing the gap and managing the fuel.
And talk us through how the car's feeling now, Anders, because over the last few weeks, you've been talking about how you haven't quite been able to get the setup where you'd like it to be. Admittedly, we didn't catch too much of your onboards during the race because it was very entertaining, everything that was going on in behind you. I'm sure you'll enjoy if you watch it back. But how did it feel that the moments that we did catch you, it looked as though it was a little bit oversteery, particularly through the Porsche curves? Have you managed to get a handle over the setup, or are you still having to just, fiddle with the balance a little bit during the race?
Yeah, I was struggling a lot in the practice beforehand of the race, and I missed out yesterday. I wasn't able to drive anything, so I kind of had to make a choice on Tuesday on what I was gonna drive, and I had a lot of help from the guys in the league, actually, especially Mav Gardner had some tips on setup. So I made a decision in the warm-up before the quali to go for more wing and a more stable setup, and that really helped me. I mean, at the end of the qualifying, I was pushing too much anyway, so I was going sideways, but it wasn't necessarily the cars or the setup's fault. But in the race, I felt pretty good. It's always going to be a little bit oversteer, but it wasn't anything out of hand. So this time I felt, considering the track was pretty hot and there was a lot of gravel everywhere, so all things considering, I felt a bit better in the car this time around, actually, even though it's not a favorite track for me. But yeah, it felt a lot better.
And looking ahead to the championship then, just 3 rounds to go, and of course with Milton not with us tonight, you already had a 202-point advantage. That will have extended probably by another 30 or so over Brandon Dyer, who of course had a good finish to him. But with only 3 rounds left and sort of nearing that 250-point threshold, you may well find yourself in a position to bring home the championship with a couple of races in hand.
Yeah, that's the goal. Obviously, that was on my mind today. I didn't want to take too much risk. The slowdowns here are really, really strict. I think iRacing should do an update on this track soon. But I managed to get away with only one. I think it was lap 14. I had a slowdown in the final sector. But that also helped me a bit today because, I knew it would be difficult to pass anyone with the wing I had, but the position came for free when the other drivers had slowdowns. So today it helped me more than it ruined for me. But yeah, obviously I can't take too much chances now. Now it's all about trying to bring it home. But then again, I always want to win, so I have to find something in between. Yeah, a balance between safe and going fast.
Good stuff, and in the end you did exactly that, mate. So good stuff. 5 wins on the bounce for you, 6 out of 7 in the season, so it's been near perfect. Fingers crossed the preparation is a little bit better coming into Daytona next week. So before we let you go, Anders, if there's anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to, you can go ahead and do that now.
As always, I have to give a shout out to Rosie in Sport and to everyone else watching along. And a shout out to Mav Gardner. Sorry if I butcher your name on live TV, but thanks for the help with the setup. And I have to give a shout out to Danny Phillips today. He did an awesome job going all the way to the back and then all the way back to the top. That's really impressive. So shout out to them, and a shout out to the league organizers and to you guys.
Perfect, Anders. Thank you very much. That's a lot of people. Good wrap, good summary. So congratulations again. Best of luck with your preparation. Enjoy the weekend. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you. Thank you. Good
stuff, man. Thank you.
Great to get a word from Anders. I feel like we get it every week, don't we? Because he just keeps winning and there's just no stopping this man. He's got such great pace at every single circuit, and even if he doesn't feel great in the car, it seems like he knows exactly how to handle it.
Exactly, and that's what you like to hear, you know, when someone is winning races week after week and they're still not too comfortable with the car. You think, God, what else has this guy got in his sleeve? He might have to get an Elite Plus class and he can just race himself in there, because if he hasn't got, if he's not too comfortable with the car, still winning out so regularly, then just imagine how it would be if he had the setup tuned to perfection. Then so good to hear from our 2 race winners, and again, rightfully said there by Anders, massive well done to Danny Phillips, who overcame some massive complexities there. Of course, a long time to recover points that were lost, but from a mental point of view, to be on the high of starting on the front row to only 30 seconds later being rock bottom and to making your way all the way back up the order again to finish first is something that we haven't seen in quite some time. So congrats again to DXT Magenta and to Danny, and of course to Anders for getting his 6th race victory of this season. And so if you would like to be like Danny or like Anders, you can go ahead and join the SimRacing International Discord server, link just on screen there. We're going to start proceedings for season 14, I'm sure, in a matter of weeks, because we're coming toward the end of this championship. Thursdays, Split A and Split B every single week. The fortnightly events are Friday evenings in the GT3 Championship, Wednesday evenings in the all-new Transatlantic Trophy, which got underway for the opening round last night around the Indianapolis Speedway. So go ahead and check that one out on the SimRacing International YouTube channel as well. And then every Sunday we have the GT3 UKSR Season 19 Championship, which next week will enter its 7th round as well. So just 1 week behind us here on a Thursday. And in the meantime, if you'd like to join us in our practice leagues, that's free to enter for everybody, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Saturdays. So the triple header to come, Daytona, Red Bull Ring and Suzuka left for our drivers. It's going to be one hell of an end to this season. So I thank everyone for watching. As always, enjoy the weekend and we'll catch you all this time next week.